Boom! Welcome all to another Wine and Comics pairing show. I'm going to go over and make sure we are live in Instagram as well. We're now live in Instagram. Amazing. Let's get this started so we can introduce our very special first time, third time guest. Here we go. That's right. We have Richard Fairgray with us once again, the very first person to ever be on the Wine and Comics pairing show 3 times. Not kind of in a row. I guess in a row isn't quite the right way to phrase that because lots of people come in between. But this is also the very first comic that we have gone from issue number 1 straight into issue number 2. So actually consecutively covering each issue. We've never done that before, shockingly, a little bit. But we are here to discuss today the Ex-Wives of Frankenstein, issue number 2. For those of you who have not read this series, I love it. It's so good. I've fallen in love with all of Richard's stuff, but this might be my favorite so far. I like the pacing of it. I like that you're riffing off of a classic IP, a classic character, but you're really not riffing off of it the way anyone else would riff off of it. We discussed this the last time when we discussed issue number 1, where Frankenstein is kind of like a Dr. Frankenstein and the Frankenstein monster. Neither are what this comic is about. They're a background presence, like they're felt. Their existence and their deeds are felt throughout this comic, but it's not about them. And
they will never appear in the comic. They're going to never appear in the comic covers, but they will not be in the book.
That's awesome.
I'm doing it.
That is a stroke. That's a stroke right there.
I'm trying to find someone. I've reached out to a few people, but I'm trying to find someone to do like a sexy, Frankenstein and his monster in the Arctic. Kind of wrapped in seal furs.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah.
Now, I want to say, I know that I have a bit of a history with, talking too much, being on this show for too long. So I'm just going to say it hard out 17 minutes. What do you think?
We can try. I don't know about 17 minutes.
I will drink the whole bottle of wine.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, I have a hard out today of 1 hour, so we'll fall in there somewhere. So
all right.
Beautiful. You've frozen once again, Dallas. This has been happening a lot lately, wherever you currently are. But I'm gonna do the whole thing where I remove you, bring you back in. There, maybe. Yep, there we go. You're moving a little bit now. A little stuttery, but you're moving. Yay! And welcome everybody. Sound off in the chat if you can. Sound off in the chat. If you're just listening passively, we welcome you anyways. Welcome to the Wine and Comics pairing show. So this is going to be an interesting one for us because we've covered you, Richard, quite a bit. Though let's catch up a little bit because you're in LA now again,
yes,
correct?
I'm back in LA. I live here again. Now, last time we spoke, it wasn't Ex-Wives 1, it was Haunted Hill 2, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so I was in Canada during that campaign. I was stuck in Canada for just over 3 months. And when I say stuck, I have a lot of nice things in Canada. My very lovely husband is there. Right. My 2 dogs are there. But you know what else is there? Canada is there, and I don't like that. So it was sort of hellish. We got snowed in.
Apologies to all our Canadian listeners right now. But
no, look, they
but it's also fair.
They know where they live. And also, I'm in a small town in Canada. I'm not. It's not like I'm in Toronto or Vancouver or something real. I'm right on the border, amongst a lot of condos and like a mile from a Walmart.
Industrial and wilderness at the same time, like the 2 worst things.
It's nothing beautiful. They put a freeway on ramp that wraps around the back of our property, so it's real loud as well. Yeah, just all the advantages. We got snowed in for about 5 days, which is nothing, but we were completely unprepared for it. And then our neighbor, who I've never spoken to, calls and asks if we want some food. And my husband is like, oh, of course, that would be lovely, because we were out of food. And I looked at him and I was like, what are you doing? Now we have to burn the house down and leave. Like, now our neighbor has spoken to us.
Exactly.
Like now I have to think about, now I know her name. I have to think about which rooms I'm naked in and when.
Yep.
I have to think about, like, can my computer screen be seen through a window?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Right.
Like, incognito tabs don't actually work if someone can see what you're looking at.
Through the window. Yeah.
Anyway, so now we're stuck. We've got, she brought over like lovely food. It was like some frozen pizzas and like some fried rice thing that she made. And now we're just stuck with this rice dish that's like sitting there on the counter. And I'm like, my husband has an injured foot, so he can't really walk it back. I'm like, I'm not doing it. We just own that now.
You sound so much like me, Richard.
I know. Did you not eat? Did you try it?
Oh no, I ate it.
Yeah, okay, the dish.
The dish. I see.
And it looks.
Yeah, I love it. It's like wait for her to come back.
And good intent.
It looks
right. You have to wait for them to come back and knock. Yeah.
It looks like. Well, I mean, see, that's what I'm terrified of.
Yeah.
Well, then take it back.
But then, oh my god.
Like the least evil, right? The least of the evils. You got to pick like what is the less puts upon you the least. Is it taking it back in advance, or is it waiting for the random knock? At which point you're definitely it will be at a time that you are not in the mood, and she will want to talk and not just pick up the dish and leave.
Well, and so now she waves at us when we drive in and out of the street, and that's too familiar for me.
That is too familiar for me too. I know. I've been getting better. So in my current neighborhood, I've been getting better about that. I've been trying to smile and nod when I pass all my neighbors when I walk out my door.
Absolutely not.
Exactly. And I avoid eye contact like the plague. I'm just like, I'm in a city for a reason. We all get to be anonymous. We all get to just be ourselves, and none of us are in each other's business unless the building's on fire or like something extreme is happening. But otherwise, we're like, everyone just be who they are and do what you're going to do.
If we go through a tragedy together, then we can bond.
Agreed.
But
exactly.
Only predicated by
exactly.
I've just moved into a new apartment here in LA, and because of just delivery fuck ups and things, I ended up getting a couch and a dresser and like an 8-foot long giant couch, because I sort of thought like, how tall is my tallest friend? And will they ever need to crash here? And the delivery people were like, oh no, we're only doing curbside. And there are people coming and going from my building all of the time. There's a lot of people with dogs. It seems like a very friendly place. And I was like, I'm not talking to any of them. I am carrying this couch in on my own. I am covered in bruises. It hurts every time I move. I slammed my hand between the couch and the wall at one point, and all my knuckles are fucked. And I'm just like, no, worth it. Absolutely worth it. Because now, I don't want to have to think, if I'm having let's say I'm having a conversation with one of my stranger friends, like I have a friend who does art with his dick blood. What if I'm on the phone to him? And I don't want to have to think about, does Steve from next door hear half of this conversation?
Right.
Do I then have to think about explaining the context? Or can I live in my happy world when I'm like, I don't know Steve's name. He can have this mystery, and it'll brighten his world as much as it will brighten mine.
Yep.
We'll talk about it forever.
When we do this show, and this show doesn't even get that bad, even with you on it, it never gets that bad. And I still close all my windows when I do this show, because I'd be talking. There's one like right over here and right over here. And I'd be talking directly at one of them. My neighbors are right downstairs, and they're often, their windows are open. It's LA, it's temperate, it's nice, so we always have our shit open. And I'm always like, these conversations, I don't need everyone hearing these. I don't want. So by the time the show's over, like 2 hours later, it's stuffy in here. I want to throw open everything again, but it's like I can't do it with the windows open. I'm way too self-conscious. So.
Well, I mean, firstly, Dave, congratulations on the humble brag of having 2 windows. And two, I mean, this is just responsible podcast recording. Like you need the windows closed.
I don't know. Sometimes when I do Zoom meetings, I'll still have all the windows open, and I love the airflow. I almost never close my windows in my apartment. It's super rare. I never want it to, especially if I'm leaving, I will leave everything open because I don't want to come home to like the air that's been stagnant all day since I left.
Mm-hmm.
Or if I've traveled, for God's sakes, I don't want to come home to like something that's been closed up for a week or more.
And do you have like an alarm system or anything? And Any way to climb in easily? Like, could you leave a ladder out?
I mean, you could, and there have been workers that have like worked on the windows and they just put a ladder up against the thing. But here's the fun thing. Like, male people don't know I exist. They can't find me half the time because I'm around the side of this small building and the stairway is hidden from view. So it's like I've just never encountered anything. There's half the time I can't get people to find me if they wanted to. And no one has I used to live in a place that had an alarm system, had a locked garage, had a lobby and an elevator. You needed a key to get up. I was robbed in that building. And and here my door is just directly to the outdoors. You climb up, there's no security, there's no lobby, there's no elevator, there's no if you have a key to my door or you can kick it open, you're in. Like, there's nothing stopping you. I should not be saying this live online.
You should not be saying this
I should not be.
Yes.
I'm just like looking behind you, seeing if there's anything I want.
I know.
Now I'm gonna do a little experiment. I've been doing an experiment where I push the mute button on my mic, which I don't know if it works or not when I need to cough.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna do that now.
All right.
Did it work? Oh,
it
cool.
worked.
So now no one knows that I'm coughing.
Thumbs up.
There
you go.
I got too excited eating some lamb, and so I have a little scratchy throat right now, just from like right before the podcast.
I do love a good lamb.
Roro's chicken.
Okay.
They do good lamb.
Roro's.
Yes.
Where's Roro's? On Sunset.
Yeah.
Yeah.
6660 Sunset.
Yeah.
So what neighbor are you still in the same neighborhood, just new place in LA?
Yeah. Well, I've kept my office. So okay, here's the thing. This is the thing that I've been a little quiet about for a while. Have you read Cavalier and Clay?
Yes, a long time ago, but yes.
So I read that as a teenager, and like there's that bit in it where Joe goes missing for a couple of decades, and it turns out he's just secretly living in the Empire State Building and writing a graphic novel. And I thought that was the coolest thing in the whole world. And so since COVID started, I got rid of my place down here when I moved to Canada, but I kept my office, and I've been coming and staying in my office secretly because it feels romantic and cool.
Yes, yes.
And so I'm like, I'm in here like making these comics. Like, I'm just like Joe. I'm like the straight one from that book. And and I sort of realized like I'm so uncomfortable. And fun fact about Hollywood, the tourist like market around here is much older, and old people firmly believe that when you stay in a motel, when you check out, you are meant to leave your keys on the dresser and leave the door open. This is the thing no young people do, but anyone over 50 seems to. So while living in my office on and off for 3 years, whenever I come to LA, I have never missed a day of showering by wandering into one of the 3 motels nearby. And I love doing crime, and I love doing harmless crime. So it feels like a really like perfect balance. And
that's brilliant.
I just sort of feel like I'm almost as old as Homer Simpson, and I just can't. Like I'm doing it for the aesthetic or for my own self-satisfaction. I thought, fuck this.
He's criming. He's criming.
I need an apartment. And so I got an apartment that is a 3-minute walk from my office. So I can still be here from 4 a.m. till 11 p.m. like a normal person.
Dude, that's fantastic.
Outside of are you still doing that sleep thing where it's like, what is it, 3 hours with the I'm trying to remember what the technique was. The oxygen?
I did 3 hours at night and 90 minutes during the day. I was using a CPAP machine to just dose myself on oxygen, and I realized that it was like too unhealthy. I started getting like weird leg pain.
Ooh.
So, now I'm up to like a solid combined 4.5 hours a day.
Of the oxygen treatment.
No,
of sleep. Of actual sleep.
All right.
No, I think 4 hours of the oxygen treatment would, because you're only supposed to do that. How long? Yeah.
No. So what I was doing is I was sleeping with that.
Gotcha.
Right. So if you have sleep apnea, it's really good for you. If you don't, you just get incredibly it's like supercharged sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love it if I didn't have to sleep ever again.
I know, but now you've caught up to, wasn't 4 to 4.5? That was like Bill Clinton's brag, wasn't it? Where it was like he went off of 4.5 a night.
Well, he was busy for the other 4 hours.
He was busy, but at the same time, I always remember feeling like, do I want the president to be making decisions on 4 hours of sleep a night? I'm not sure that it was a humble brag on his part, but I was like, shit, that actually makes me kind of worried, man. I don't know if I like that.
But
I feel like
think like this. Like, what makes someone angrier than when they're saying something they really care about, they're passionate about, and you say, you're just grumpy because you're tired?
Yeah.
Imagine saying that to the fucking president. That would feel so good.
It really would.
But they also say, so it's you go insane after what, 72 hours without sleep, kind of a thing.
That's
right?
what they say. 72.
That's what they say.
I've never made it 72 hours.
That's good. That's good for this reason, for the most part.
Right.
You want to, but the more sleep deprived you are too, like I know from my own personal experience, I used to do the same thing. There was a job I had at one point. Well, I used to work at a bakery where I had to be in at like 4 a.m. every morning. And I'm a night owl. So that essentially meant I would nap during the afternoon and essentially stay up all night. I did not really go to sleep because I'm like, I'm not getting up at 4. Like, that's impossible for me. So, but I can stay up till 4. That's easy. And I would do that on a regular basis. And when I did that for like a year and a half. And when I finally stopped doing that, I mean, admittedly, they say you're grumpy because you sleep, but it's not just grumpiness. It's like you feel better about shit. Like I would always be like down on myself and like anything I was doing creatively or socially. I was like, oh, I don't think any of this is going well. And then I fucking slept proper. And I was like, oh, I feel okay with everything. Now, maybe that's the opposite judgment, like bad judgment, where it's like you think everything you're doing is amazing and it actually really could use some more, you to be a little more cynical about your own talents. But I just felt better about everything when I finally started getting more sleep.
It's curious. I'm not a person who's able to nap. I cannot nap during daylight hours, not even as a child. It just is it's impossible. And it's frustrating as fuck because I see everyone napping and it just annoys the shit out of me.
Grass is always greener, man. I usually have to, whether it's depending on my schedule of the day, whether it's middle of the day or early evening, like post-work day job hours, I always have to exercise to keep going. Or I'll fall asleep at like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. I can't fall asleep at fucking 10 p.m. or midnight. Like that's where I become a night owl. But the middle of the day, sometimes I'm like, oh, it's my day off. I don't have to work out. I get to do other things all day long. And then my energy, I just want to sleep the middle of the day so badly. All I want to do is sleep. And I'm so useless to everybody. So I feel like I wish I could just be in this, like, I can't nap. I might as well get shit done. I wish.
See, I like, if I sleep more than, if I did 4.5 hours in a row, like that's my absolute maximum. Any more than that, and I feel like absolute dog shit for the day.
I'm about 5. Yeah, about 5. Yeah. 5 is the upper limit for me.
Because you wake up and you're just like, well, the day's half over.
Right.
Like, I was in Seattle last week. I went into this terrible hotel. I was there for Emerald City Comic Con, and I stayed at a place called Hotel Max, which is a cool name for a hotel, obviously. And and I get there and there's no coffee machine in the room. And so I go down to I call down to the front desk. There's no answer. So I walk down and I say, hey, there's no coffee machine in my room. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, can I have one? and they said, oh no, we don't do those. And I was like,
there's a Starbucks down the street.
Well, they were like Starbucks across the street opens at 5. I'm like, but I get up at 3. What am I meant to do until Starbucks opens? And the guy looked at me and very earnestly said, well, to make up for it, we can give you a 10% discount on any Hotel Max merch. I'm like, okay. Do you sell a coffee machine? Like,
right.
It took all my
coffee pods. I'll run hot water in the sink over it. Like something. Come on, man.
I don't fuck with pods. Like, what's the point of pods? Like, I'm gonna make 1 cup of coffee at a time.
Yes, agreed.
Who is that for?
Back to this insomnia thing real quick. A project I started writing, one of the many projects that's never gone anywhere, about 7 years ago. There are a couple of families, and 3 of them are actually Italian, but they have this genetic predisposition to insomnia, but it's so severe that they functionally can't sleep even with medication. Mm-hmm. And so by the time they're 30 years old, their systems have just deteriorated in such a way that death is right around the corner. So no one in the family makes it to the age of 35 or 40, and to see these interviews with these family members who know that this thing is down the road from them, it is such a sort of slow-paced nightmare that I was compelled. I was like, okay, I gotta. This is a nightmare. This is a walking fucking nightmare. But it's the entire family, and I was like, yeah, okay, I gotta. This has to be something. This has to be something. But I felt bad writing it because there's those poor guys. Anyway.
That's so cool, though.
Yeah, it is.
Like, I mean, you've got a literal ticking clock there in the story.
Yes.
Oh my God, that's good.
Yeah, it is. It is so. There's a great doc on one of the Italian families, and what's crazy is a couple of the family members, when it started happening to the family in the early, I think, 20s or 30s, records were shit then, so no one knew why family members were dying at the age of 30, 35. And in the 70s, they had some studies done, and then they put this sort of chart of the family tree on, and everyone in the family was dying right before this milestone. And just that was the character for me. I was like, oh, okay, the person who goes through this study goes to the university and is the subject of this study, is the one who sort of demystifies this whole thing and realizes that this ticking time clock is just following him around. It's above his head. It's in his ears. Not only can he functionally not sleep just as a baseline, now he has the anxiety of this ticking time, clock on top of him, right? It just was a walking nightmare.
Do they look their age, or are they full on Jack disease kind of vibes?
It's curious because they're all very thin because their metabolism is constantly having to kind of just.
Okay, so it's worth it.
Yeah. But when they hit about 30 years old, they do start to age very rapidly because of the stress.
Yeah.
That was Richard's die young
that's right.
take on things.
Well, so
die young and beautiful. Sorry,
my crushing it at both here. I have a chemical imbalance in my brain, so I release I like serotonin, melatonin, and dopamine are meant to kind of go in cycles, basically.
Yeah,
right.
And I release all of them all of the time. So I'm kind of technically always in fight or flight mode. So I find it really hard to go into a proper deep sleep. When I wake up, I don't have any of that grogginess. I'm just like, it's like my eyes are closed. Now my eyes are open and I'm fully prepared.
Same. Do you dream, Richard?
Yeah, only lucid dreams though.
I don't dream. I do not dream.
That you remember ever, kind of a thing, right?
Well, I mean, otherwise you're not dreaming. I mean,
well, you are. There's plenty of dreams. Like, I don't remember the vast, like, at all. Like, I wake up in the morning and only rarely, like, I would say I can count on one hand how many times a year I wake up actually being cognizant that I dreamed.
None of that. Not even.
None of that.
And here's the other thing. What about aphantasia? You guys know what aphantasia is?
No.
So if I ask you to close your eyes and picture an apple.
Oh, yeah.
Do you actually see something?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't have that.
You don't have that?
It's just blackness. It's
wow.
pure black.
So to you, it's the concept of the apple. You don't 100%. Visualize the apple. Yeah. You understand the meaning of the word, and you're like, I'm thinking of the word apple, but I'm not seeing.
It's like the definition, context. Right. It's sort of
right.
Have you heard about this incredibly unpeer-reviewed scientific paper that someone did where they tried to figure out how much they could teach dogs? Where they're like dogs can obviously recognize other dogs. Dogs can form a memotype of what a dog is. The more dogs they see, the more they begin to understand that small dogs are the same as them. If they're big dogs, whatever. And they started trying to see how far away from an actual dog they could get it before the dog stopped responding as if it was responding to a dog. And essentially it went from dogs to paintings of dogs to drawings of dogs to very cartoonish dogs. To stick figures of dogs. And
far away, I thought you meant distance. And I'm like, huh?
Yeah, me too.
Apparently, they got to the point where they could write the word dog, and the dog would react as if there was no dog there.
Come on.
And again, incredibly unpeer-reviewed. This was a thing.
I like how you said unpeer-reviewed scientific paper, and I'm like, no checks, no balances, no reviews.
Who did this paper? Liberty University.
It was PragerU. This was maybe Jesus, I'm old. Like 20 years ago, this was circulating,
wow, okay.
and I just remember being like delighted by it. And when the Planet of the Apes movies came out, and they started doing the screenings just for apes, to like test if they were.
This.
Yeah, yeah. Now that here's the thing: animals couldn't see television, like our old televisions. Something about the refresh rate or whatever didn't work for them, and now these new ones they can see. And so when you leave, like, here's a show for your dog to watch, they're just looking at dancing light, and now they can see the images. And so when they realized they were doing these incredibly realistic apes for this movie, they're like, let's get a bunch of apes in a room and see if they respond to them like they're real apes. And I was like, oh my God, we could do a dog movie and see. Like, it really excited me. I want a dog who can just like.
Aren't apes really aggressive with other apes though? Isn't that kind of dangerous?
They're like us.
Well, yeah, I mean, like they review bombed the film with their yeah. But yeah, so that's what's going on with me. I'm back in Hollywood. Life is good.
Welcome back.
I'm nominated. I'm up for a bunch of awards, which feels cool.
Oh,
that's right.
Yeah.
Say what awards you're up for.
I'm up for the GLAAD Award for Best Graphic Novel for Four Color Heroes. And also for Four Color Heroes, I found out this morning I'm a finalist in the Ford Indie Book of the Year Award.
Nice.
So feeling pretty good. I don't think there's an EGOT for Oscars. But if I can get the GLAAD and the Ford, and let's see if we can get an Eisner and a Ringo, and I can be the Fur.
It could be the Fur, yeah. The
group. I guess Berg is actually a sound. I could, but I like the nomination. I've always said whoever comes second is the most interesting thing, right? Yeah. The first place goes to the safe option. Although if I get first place, I'm going to say that it's the most interesting.
Absolutely, as well you should.
Yeah. Huh. At least you're nominated one way or the other.
Yeah. And then other than that, I'm just making a shitload of comics.
What's this color on the walls? There's this teal, and it's a specific pink, not Pepto. It's a fuchsia. No.
Oh no! I look. If I could get Baker Miller pink on these fucking walls, no. This is. It's actually a very vivid purple. It just doesn't show up.
I was gonna say it looks purple to me. Yeah,
it's giving me fuchsia.
I mean, hot pink, maybe hot pinkish. It looks very 80s. This is one of those like movie sets from the 80s, right?
No, if you think of Devi's hair from I Feel Sick, it's that color.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I also like the curtains that are hung back there to go with it is perfect as well. Yeah. I think those are curtains anyway.
Yes, those are.
Yes, and then you hung your Haunted Hill green poster or actual painting on the wall over there.
No. It's just I've got I've actually across that wall I've got 3 huge posters of the Haunted Hill covers, the donut one, the boot crushing the cheese balls, and then one that hasn't been released yet of Eva pulling the donut underwear out of her butt crack.
There it is. Okay, yeah. I took our logo down so everyone can see that a little bit better there.
Let me see if I can angle this without fucking everything up.
Oh, yeah, and we'll solo layout you. So boom, there it is.
There we go.
Very
Look
nice.
At that beautifulness.
Very, very, very
amazing.
Nice.
And I went to all this effort to like not show like bottles of poppers or sex toys sitting around my office, and I was like, how far can I go before that happens?
We come to expect that from you, Richard.
Over here, we can see my Ex-Wives of Frankenstein #1, which I haven't taken to my storage unit yet. Behind me on the door is that mail slot in the door is very injurious to children. When I'm next door to a casting agent, and whenever there's a kid's audition, kids will invariably stick their fingers through the mail slot and it snaps on them. And then angry parents bang on my door to ask why I've hurt their child. I'm like, no, your child's stupid. So,
well, on that note, Ex-Wives of Frankenstein, #2. I've got some questions for you. Let's actually go a little bit out of order than we normally do because we've talked about issue #1 before, but let's go look at the Kickstarter page. Then we'll come back and do a bit more of a deep dive into it after we just take a look at the basics. So let me share my screen. Let's bring the page up here for all to see. Ex-Wives of Frankenstein 1 through 2. 2 women living in the aftermath of monsters, trying to not be monsters to each other. Pat is a backer. Hi, Pat Shand. As we can all see. And you're well funded, 111 backers, 12 days to go, guys. These are the 3 covers, and let's play the video. What the hey? Let's see what we can see.
Elizabeth Frankenstein and the Bride of the Monster, on the day they find out that their husbands are alive, living as a gay couple in the Arctic, and returning to the city as heroes of Reddit and Twitter. This is a story of 2 women pitted against each other by society, by men, by a literal monster, realizing that in this moment, despite not liking each other, they have no one else who could possibly understand what they are about to be dragged back into. One commentator described this book as French cinema disguised as genre fiction, and honestly, I have never felt more understood. The entire book is written and illustrated, and in the case of the cover, built and photographed by me. And we have amazing variant covers by Hey Weirdo with our Not Safe for Work cover, and our Busy City Street cover by Dennis Manhier, whose work is just astonishing. And of course, you can pick up all of my previous Kickstarter books: Octopus, Too Hot for Octopus, Haunted Hill 1 and 2, Ex-Wives of Frankenstein 1, 4-Color Heroes, and for the first time in North America, Shed from Blue Fox Comics. We also have original art, sketches, and this collectible box of matches to scare away monsters that comes with a download of issue 2. So check it out, and thanks for the support. It means a lot.
I need those pants.
Now, can you guess which part of that was recorded as ADR after the original, when one of my rewards fell through and I had to create something new?
The box of matches. But that is an amazing new reward that you came up with there.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Well, and it's good. I'm sure we'll see when we scroll down into the rest of the Kickstarter, but that box of matches, it's got some writing on it that is absolutely perfect and hysterical. But we'll take a look at that in just a moment. But this is, let's actually open this window up as big as we can. The Ex-Wives of Frankenstein, issue number 2. I do love that you are still doing the background as an actual sculpture.
Everything except the cover dressing. There's no digital alteration to that. Nice. The line work. So it's 2 cell phones in the hands that I built inside a wooden box. Everything's covered with paper mache from chapter 20 of Frankenstein. And then on the screens of the cell phones are those 2 images. And then I printed filters on acetate, and I printed the line work on acetate and layered it to get the extra blue and pink on there.
Good deal.
Nice. Jesus. Oh, that's good. Beautiful. And here's the interior art for the Ex-Wives of Frankenstein. So question for you. It's not homosexuality, it's just narcissism, right? Is the one of the lines that like kicks off this whole chapter. So I know that's something that at least this character, this particular ex-wife of Frankenstein, she's like, oh, please, he's not. This is all attention getting, and he's just blah, blah, blah. I don't remember if I asked you this last time, but I don't remember your answer. So I'm going to ask you this again, which is, in your mind, is he or isn't he? Is this narcissism or is this authentic?
Look, I think as a proud member of the gay community, I think it would be dishonest of me to say that many friends of mine and myself wouldn't be fucking delighted to have sex with someone who looked just like us.
That's like 50% of the gay populace. So yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it is always part. Like, it's not the entire goal, but it's part of the goal.
Yeah, at least once for sure.
Yeah. And
if I came across a doppelganger of this, I'm like, oh yeah, come.
Because this is the thing. Like straight people are the same. If you were cloned, you'd fuck. Like 100%. we all would, because we'd know what we liked.
I just want to see what everyone else is talking about. What's the hype here?
Maybe. See, I would say I would not mind. I would be very nervous if there was a sex tape of me out there, but I'm always curious, like, what the fuck do I look like doing that? Like, what do I sound like? What do I like getting out of my own head and being like, what am I? How am I coming across? And what? But I'm bummed.
And what are you?
What am I?
Right.
Yes. What? Like, how am I? In my head, I'm doing great. I don't know if I actually am. I wonder if I saw myself, I'd be like, oh Jesus.
But that's the allure.
Someone was with me in that room. Oh,
but
God.
See, this is the other thing. The person who's with you is looking at you like front on. They're not seeing you from where the camera's seeing you.
Right.
So they're
true.
Like you're you know what
that's when
you
need that special POV porn sex tape, right? Kind of thing, which is never exactly the same either.
You know what your angles are like in a mirror. You're very good at making yourself look good from the angle that you would look at yourself from. So when you are face to face with another person and climb in like a fucking tree, you know how to make yourself look your best to them. Three ways are harder, or as my husband calls them, triple sex, are harder. I think that, like, you know, everyone shares their nudes these days. Everyone's on their dating apps. I don't ever send nudes to anyone on dating apps, and it's not because I'm opposed to doing it. It's because I absolutely know I cannot take good pictures of any part of myself. Like, I would need someone else to do it for me. So yeah, it's a tough one. But I think, like, especially with this, you know, like, Victor Frankenstein is trying to create a man in his own image. Yeah. He's trying to build someone that is like himself because he believes himself to be perfect. And you know, this is kind of the furthest I strayed from the novel, honestly, other than the time and setting. But this idea that he's created this perfect man who looks just like him and then coincidentally has fallen in love with it, I think is certainly, like, it's self-obsession masked as homosexuality, at least on some level. I also think that, like, if your partner breaks up with you because they're with someone else, you get to be so mad publicly and you get to be messy about it. If your partner breaks up with you to come out as gay, you have to be so publicly supportive immediately. And these two women are being put through that to the extreme because, like, their husbands literally ran rampage through the city and killed people and burnt down buildings and stuff, and are now suddenly being worshipped as heroes of the online community for being proud gay science boys. And like, this is, you know, like, Victoria understands what it means to be online, and Elizabeth has been kind of a recluse since all of this began. And she gets to have these outbursts. Like, we are seeing the immediate moment where they get to be their sloppiest before they pull themselves together.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do like how Victoria, I mean, even if not talking about technically, because I kind of forgot about the fact where another part in the comic, she mentions that she's like literally 3 years old or something like that, and I was like, oh, right, I forgot. So of course she's more technologically hip. She's more involved in that type of a thing, and I think they're a great odd couple right there. So in your you kind of answered this just now, but it's that idea of when, and I think let's remove Frankenstein because he's a particular jackass character who has his own, we can judge him for other things, not so much just about the relationship side of things. But when it comes to, say, someone who was married and, you know, kind of having a straight relationship for a long time, but then comes out gay and whatnot. And then you have the, for lack of a better term, like, everyone's kind of a survivor in that scenario, in that situation. But then, of course, you have the woman who's just sort of like, the whole life they thought they were building, everything they thought that, you know, why someone was with them and why.
The collateral damage. They're the
collateral damage.
I have no idea why you think I would have any understanding of this, and my ex-wife wouldn't either.
Yeah, this is true.
Yeah.
But
I think, look, I think it's a really interesting thing. Like, when, you know, this is not an autobiographical book on any level.
Right. Sure.
But I think, like, I know that when I was never not out. I was always, like, as far as I knew, openly bisexual. Although, like, the more people I've found out have, like, been surprised by that over the years, has kind of made me rethink how public I was. And, like, I had, when I was in my first marriage, I was very openly dating a man a terrible, terrible man for about 4 years that my wife knew about, and that like we went to big events together. He appeared with me on on the New Zealand equivalent of red carpets. I had a very intense relationship with a man from America, and I moved to Australia and lived with him. Like there was no secret about any of this. I think it was that like almost to the point where it was so public that people just thought it was not true or something. I don't know. But I also know that when my wife and I separated for reasons that really weren't to do with that, I very quickly just started saying gay instead of bisexual.
Yeah.
Because and maybe I'm wrong about this, but like in the moment, I thought it's much easier for her to say, like, here's my husband was gay, therefore, rather than like my husband was bisexual. Because that's sort of
left me for someone else that happens to be a man, but
I didn't leave her for someone else. Like the marriage ended for like just reasons that we didn't like each other very much. But me being gay was a much sort of simpler thing for the shorthand of if she didn't want to talk to strangers about it, she could just say that. And like even now, I mean, I now publicly say like I would be bisexual if I weren't so lazy. So who knows?
All right. Yeah. I don't remember. I remember your story of your previous marriage. I don't remember if we had the details of how or why it ended the last time. If so, I'd forgotten about that. So that helps actually put some of this into context.
I mean, like,
everyone.
It's one of those things. It's that marriage ended for a lot of very good reasons. We were terrible together, and we didn't like each other.
Well, and that was one of the curious things. You were saying how open everything was, and you were seeing other men at the time. You were still married, and everyone knew. Like you both knew about it. You both kind of agreed to it. I guess that's one question I have. Is like, was it sort of you didn't talk too much about it, but everyone knew what was going on, or did you just have like a formal-ish agreement?
There wasn't really a formal agreement, and I think what confused me. Man, I'm only on my second glass of wine, and you're already getting me here. Like, she and I were together from the end of high school, and it was this is so fucking unhealthy. My best friend at the time, my co-writer on 15 years worth of comics, was a man 37 years older than me, who basically made it very clear to me that if there weren't going to be complicated questions about our incredibly close relationship, I really needed to have a girlfriend. And as a 17-year-old who had been best friends with this much older man for a few years at that point, I went, okay, whatever you say. Yeah. And she and I had been like really close friends. She was the only other person at my high school who was into comic books, so it made sense. And I knew she liked me, so that sort of seemed fine. There was no point in our relationship where I wasn't dating, or at very least having a lot of casual sex with other people. And I thought I never hit it. We broke up briefly. I went and lived with a man who I'd met online. We were together for months. And then when I found out he was secretly married the whole time, I came back. And we got back together because I was very depressed. I started dating a man 4 years before we broke up, and he lived in a different city, and he would fly into town for a couple of nights a month for work, and I would go out with him, and he was a fairly respected author and kind of political figure, and we would go to a lot of events and do all of the things that go along with that, that was a very public thing. People knew, like, Richard has a relationship with Tony. And when we broke up, Tony had just had heart surgery. And so I said to my now ex-wife, I'm going to go stay with Tony. And she said, oh, you're probably going to finally sleep with him then. And I remember being really shocked by this. And I said to her, like, I've been sleeping with him for 4 years. Like, of course I have. What, like, and the thing is, I had told her detailed stories because Tony liked weird and frankly abusive sex. And I had told her the full details of this. I told many people the full details of this. And so it really confused me then. But like, who knows? This was, in the middle of a breakup when we were still figuring out like who took the dog and who was staying in the house. And I was moving to America 6 weeks from then.
Yeah.
So where was, who was meant to go where? So who knows what the messiness of that is? But we haven't really spoken since, so I don't really have an answer.
Wow. Wow.
All right.
Divorce is fun. Everyone should do it.
It is. Yes. No. Everyone should to have the proper sympathy might be the right word. It might not quite be the right word, but the proper, for lack of a better word, the proper sympathy for everyone who is going through one, because it is a weird, difficult, and a lot of the times you can't, neither side really knows how they got there. Even though you also kind of do, but you also kind of don't. It's complicated, as always. On that
let's talk about this this cover here. Let's talk about this.
Isn't it pretty?
That's just good stuff. That whole palette, man, it's just so peachy and love it.
And this is Dallas. This is your Dennis Menahiri, if I'm pronouncing his last, but from the comic you loved that we did in a very early episode through Source Point put it out, I think. The one shot. Why can't I remember the name? Etheres.
Etheres. Yeah.
Etheres.
Oh, right. Etheres. Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. It is Dennis.
Yep. That's how I knew about him through Anas, who is like one of the best writers of swirling, weird, poetic comics I've ever come across.
And I tell you, that was that find of Dennis's work, man. That's just I've yet to see something of his I dislike.
I am like, I've got another series coming out next month, a new series launching next month, and I was like, Dennis, please do a variant for me. And he's like, I'm not available till July. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah, just everything about it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then my favorite.
And then this.
I'm so fucking in love with this. Yeah, I mean, look, you've seen my Grimace t-shirt. Same artist, Hey Weirdo, Amy Wee. She does these like fantastically fucked up, like they're sexy but uncomfortable. And I love it.
Hey Weirdo. Yeah. As it says on the screen right there.
This was the reward. So I had the idea for this cover and I was trying to figure out how to draw it myself, and it just wasn't coming together. And I was like, she would be perfect. So I reached out to her and I said, can we do this? And can we have it like, I want to produce this as an actual set of fridge magnets to go along with the cover. And that's the reward we had to replace. That ADR on the video is because 1 hour before the campaign went live, Sticker Mule got back to me and said, we can't do the magnet sheet of that. Some of the pieces are too small.
So, no.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sucks.
Damn it.
Yeah.
That does suck. Yeah, I do like the ramen bowl is inspired. That's great.
You know what else it reminds me of? Back when I was a kid, I would steal my sister's little there was a doll you could cut out the paper outfits for it, and sort of that
and they folded over. Yeah. So that was the original idea, was those, and then I remembered that in the early 2000s, magazines started doing magnet sets of them for like. I remember my friend Alana had a Buffy dress up fridge magnet set.
Okay.
This was small enough. I did not notice what this centerpiece was until just now, looking at it.
It's a dildo.
It's a hand holding a dildo.
That's hilarious. I didn't see that.
So you can put the hand. Yeah. It's like, if that's what you want, that hand, let's see.
Fully customizable.
Doing.
There's an early draft of the script where in one incarnation of this, Victoria was going to be working. It's mentioned in issue 2, but it's never really directly talked about. That she works as does like online webcam girl stuff. And there was going to be a scene where she was going to sit down, have 2 laptops set up, and log in, get out a bolt, a giant bolt dildo because of themes. And then she was going to unstitch her head and put it in front of the other laptop with headphones on to watch a movie while her body did all the sex work.
Love that.
But it kind of like, it would have meant, because I love that shower sequence in the first issue. I'm really like happy with how it kind of, I think it really captures like the vulnerability, but also like the aggressiveness of her own, like her embracing of her scars. And I felt like if it was followed, it all had to happen before Elizabeth showed up. So it would have been like 8 pages of showering and lipstick, and then I guess 4 pages of her with a giant bolt dildo taking her own head off. And I'm like, there's not a lot of room left for actual conversation in this thing then.
That would have been quite an opening, though. Yeah, I will say that needs to be the 8-page prequel. That is a special unlock at some point.
I would love to draw it. I think it would be, because here's the thing. My whole thing is, if I'm gonna draw women like naked and sexy, I'm gonna make it like they're very powerful, but I'm gonna make you feel uncomfortable for looking at it.
There you go.
And this is the same thing that I think Amy has done with this cover.
For sure.
Well, and to that point in your head, because she can take her head off and have her watch a movie, but is what's happening to the body, is her head not being affected by that? Like, is it not in that moment?
Is it a commentary on the detachment of sexuality?
It is. It's a commentary on the, like, on, if you see these people saying like, oh, strippers are only doing it for the money. It's like, obviously it's their fucking job. Like, yes, they're pretending to like you because you're giving them money and they're doing their job.
Right.
And like having the head separate from that, like whatever, if someone was really into this, they could be getting pleasure, their face would be reacting.
Yeah.
She is doing this mechanically at this point.
Right.
Right. Yeah. The closest I kind of get to a pseudo-sexual moment is in issue 3, there's a moment where she uses electricity as a drug, because obviously it's what she was originally brought to life with.
Right.
Ooh, I like that.
Beautiful. All right.
There was originally a cover design that we thought was like in poor taste, which I'm really sad about, which was it was
thought it was something was important.
I know, I like that who's we?
It was the original pitch I went to Amy with before we did the fridge magnet thing.
Gotcha.
But it was Victoria in the bath, and she was going to be like almost showing everything by being in this bathtub, but she was smiling and holding a plugged-in toaster in her hand.
Oh, that's
and like, because I think like the idea of her like getting high off electricity is really funny.
Yeah,
and
I think you need to explore that, and
it takes it a little too far into like, is she smiling about suicide?
Well, I mean that for her situation, that is a drug,
not suicide.
It's not suicide. That's a high.
Yeah. It wouldn't, because that wouldn't kill her. I mean, yeah, you don't want anyone trying to replicate it in real life, but outside of that, she's not trying to commit suicide by doing that. Yeah. So, yeah.
Oh yeah, please dig into that.
I'll dig into that. That said, I'm glad this cover exists also. This is an amazing cover. I do wish it was going to be one of my questions. I was like, are these going to be color forms? But magnets were what you were going for there. But I was like, come on, this is like are you going to make a sheet that we can print out and paper doll this stuff, or like what are we doing here?
Well, so the next stretch goal, which is we're about $40 away from, everyone gets virgin copies of the covers as digitally, and then physical backers get one physical copy. Okay. A physical copy of one cover, and when this cover was sent to me, every piece had a kind of white outline around it, so it could work better as like tags for the paper doll version of it. And then when I was putting it together as the magnet, I had to remove those. And then when it couldn't be the magnet, I was like, there's 4 minutes till I go live. I don't have time to put those back in. So there may be a version where I send this out to everyone as a thing they could print out at home and play with.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Very
beautiful.
Cool.
And the sewing kit. This is also lovely.
What did you say?
The sewing kit.
Sewing, Dave.
Sewing. Come on, suing. Say it like it's spelled, damn it.
Okay.
I think you actually thought that's it, suing. But I'm gonna let it pass.
I mean, I do say when I do say suing. I mean, honestly, in real life, I do say that when I say the word.
All right, Dave Baxter, we're gonna have a conversation after the show.
Do you refer to people who sew as sewers?
Seamstresses.
Wow, that's very gendered, Dave. Wow.
Is it? Oh, that's true.
Wow.
Well, cancel Dave. Cancel Dave.
It is. It's funny though, because it is a is it a seamster? Otherwise, like what's the neutral version of that?
A sewer.
Semen?
I've never heard so. I've never heard sewer or sewer. I've never heard sewer. See, so people.
A seam person. I don't know.
Seam person. Oh, that's the thing. Is I don't. Have we even like formalized a non-gendered version of that word?
Remember, well, customer.
Thread artist.
Remember when that the phrase was going around, hurt people,
Yeah.
Everyone thought every time I saw it, I would always think buy people, which never took off.
And then here we go.
The matches.
Yeah. Emergency mini torches. If this is too small for anyone on their screen, I will read this out. Emergency mini torches. On the back, it says, keep your village safe with these handy mini torches. Perfect for chasing away monsters, even those of your own making.
That's funny.
And caution contains the Ex-Wives of Frankenstein #2.
All right. Next time you got to get some bolts jewelry. You just go to Home Depot, get a batch of bolts, and put them on some shitty chains.
I can tell you. So the original plan for this issue was the magnets, and then this was going to be for issue 3. There were going to be some matches, and I hadn't actually designed the box. This is a last minute rush. Also, did you know that just like randomly at 5 a.m. trying to figure out if someone will print matches for you and if it's legal to send matches in the mail is
seriously that's my first thought. It was
like they can. This is a U.S. only reward and it has to be ground transport. They cannot go on airplanes apparently. But I had the thought because there's that moment on The Simpsons where Mrs. Krabappel says that she collects matchbooks from fancy nightclubs. And Skinner says, oh, that must be exciting. How do you get those? And she says, oh, if you call them and ask real nice, they'll send them to you. And I was like, that must be possible. But what I want to do is coasters from the bar they go to in issue 2 as a thing for the 3rd issue. Which is also, everything's out of order because it's issue 3 when, spoilers, part of Victoria gets ripped apart by someone, and she actually has to use the emergency sewing kit to put herself back together.
There you go. Okay.
But for issue 4, for the finale, I'm going to get the little things he used to like rip stitching out of things.
Yeah, the ripper. Yeah.
And have those with a little case with a QR code on them. But I'm going to do like a really limited edition where it's like fancy Victorian look, and they're all going to have Victoria's name on them because they're all hers. But then there'll be a fancy Victorian looking one with an engraved thing. And it's going to be in a little glass frame that says on it, in case of emergency, break glass and tear yourself apart.
Cute.
Nice. Nice. You should also do some like temporary tattoos of like stitched up. Yeah, stitching. Yeah. So, because you don't want anyone actually using the emergency sewing kit on themselves. So, let's at least give them maybe some temporary. Yeah, I know. Richard's like, don't do we not?
I will say, when I was getting the emergency sewing kits, I spent a long time trying to find out if I could get like surgical thread.
Yeah.
So that people actually could use. And I was like, but then they can't use it for anything real, you know?
Right. Oh. All right.
Very nice. Very nice.
And of course, you can get some of the pencil pages, the full Richard Sucks collection, which includes Haunted Hill and Octopus and Too Hot for Octopus. Oh, amazing. Yeah. Sorry, I was looking at the donut magnet thing.
Put your fingers in my hole sticker.
Yeah. It's a big bundle. It's a bit over 500 pages of digital comics and a physical copy of issue number 2. Beautiful. And again, if you guys haven't seen Richard's art before, I mean, God damn it. This is...
Yeah, that was a great page, by the way.
Yeah.
Refraction. And...
Can I also ask, Richard, you know, one of the strengths outside of the art, which is, you know, beautiful, like the fact that so far these 2 issues, and I'm assuming a lot of this comic is going to be, a lot of your comics tend to be talking heads, a lot of really great dialogue and character work between the characters kind of bouncing off each other. When it comes to dialogue, who are your influences there? Like, what do you consider great dialogue? What's great dialogue that you have come across in the past?
Oh God, this is tough. I always, like, every time someone asks me this question, my mind immediately goes blank.
Golden Girls.
I mean, close.
For like, witty banter, yes.
A little bit.
Yes. Greatest sitcom in history, but go
on. I'm an obsessive listener. I have really good hearing. I'm in public places a lot. I can't drive, so I take public transit. I listen to people all of the time and make a lot of notes of anything unusual I hear.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, less than trying to mimic someone else's style, I'm always trying to like capture other people's reality. I'm really obsessed with this way that, like, if you listen to interviews from 30 years ago, people don't try and end with jokes. There's no burn line in conversation. And now we're so steeped in culture and pop culture that we try and like go out on a joke. And I'm really interested in, like, do people who work in film and TV don't do that. People who watch film and TV do. People who live in the Midwest speak differently than people who live in LA or New York.
Right.
And it's not an elitist thing. It's just there's different emphasis on things. And
that's how culture works. Yeah.
Yeah. And I want to kind of like break that down. And I always want to capture like parts of speech. You know, I'm writing a book. I'm ghostwriting a book at the moment that I guess I'm sort of allowed to talk about because I'm ghostwriting it, but the company have put my picture on their website and said that I'm the writer. So I have no fucking clue. And I'd chosen a name for the character, and the person who runs the company basically said, like, they didn't like the name I'd chosen because it references a primitive mollusk, and that was like not inspiring. And I was like, well, the reason I've chosen it is because it's really primitive and because of the problems the character has and what they have to like get over and who they become by the end of it and why they change their name. But it's also a cool sounding word. And also I've noticed that it's a word that a lot of young people are using, not knowing what it really means to describe armor or a shell or a protective shell of any kind outside of that. And I'm really interested that like young people are talking about, like, especially gamers and cosplayers are using this word, whereas like me as a 38-year-old would never have thought to say it. And the person who's funding this project would never have thought to say it, who's older than I am, but I have no guess as to how old. So, you know, it's always about capturing these little pieces like that. So much of this book, you know, in the inside front cover of every issue of this has a list of 10 or 15 women who I'm thanking, because almost every part of it is not things they've said to me, but relevant to topics they've brought up with me about how they've been treated by men in different relationships or how they've been treated just on the street for existing. And I'm really grateful to like the insight I have from those people, and little turns of phrase from them are really present.
So it's more about I think I'm similar in that when I'm writing certain characters, there's a sort of music to the voice. You know, I'm constantly listening to voices and inflection, the music. So I definitely understand that. Yeah.
Yeah, rhythm of some kind.
Yeah.
I mean, it is very naturalistic dialogue without seeming not ostentatiously so. You know, because there are some people that when I was growing up, and I went to college I was a theater geek, so I did the whole like Bachelor of the Arts in theater. So we read like a lot of plays, and a lot of the plays that were at their time, like the Edward Albees and the the groundbreaking the people who were saying a lot of what's the word, like taboo things that generally like it's like, well, you don't have that in polite conversation, and it's like, right, that's why we're putting it into a play, then we can everyone can actually hear it. But one thing that always bothered me about playwrights and their dialogue is like there's such a stagey rhythm to the whole thing, to where a lot of time, and I think that's always the challenge of the actors. So like, how do you deliver this shit and have it not come across that way? It sounds like you're actually having a real conversation, and it's possible. But one thing that I really appreciate about your version of this is that I'm very sensitive to quote unquote naturalistic sounding dialogue that feels stagey, that feels playwrighty, where it's like everything is this pitter patter back and forth, and there's a rhythm that is not how people actually talk to each other very often. And I feel like you do dodge that bullet in this. Like this dialogue just flows. Like I go from page to page. And one thing, I did this with the previous wine that I paired with issue number 1, and I'm going to do a different wine, but does a very similar thing for issue number 2, which is all about this. When you read one of the, like, I never know where the fuck I am in the issue when I'm reading it. Like, I don't know what page I'm on. I don't know if I'm in the middle of the issue or near the end or still close to the beginning. You just read it. And that's not an experience I have very often with things. Like, I've had issues that are done quicker than I thought they would be, and I've had like it just breezes through, and I've had times where I'm absorbed into it and I don't care where I am per se. But yours is like every page is just a natural flow from one to the next, and you're just in the story. Like, it's like you can't tell, like you're not structuring these per se with a lot of careful structure in terms of like, this is the first 10 pages and then the second 10 pages, then the last 10 pages kind of a thing. And
that's fascinating, because this is the most structured. It's 4 issues, and I wanted to do the 4 parts of a conversation in their journey of like, the first issue is very antagonistic, and they are stuck with each other because they have no choice, or they're looking for something. This is the second issue where they've made the decision to like each other. And then at the end of this issue, you get this Elizabeth gets the reminder of why she hates Victoria. And issue 3 becomes this, I guess we're stuck here again. And Victoria doesn't know why things are getting worse and why she's now out of her depth, and Elizabeth is being mean to her directly. And then there's a sort of I could be wrong. I think the only man who speaks directly to any of them in the story is in issue 3. And it changes the sympathies of it, and Victoria has to have this realization of like where the power balance actually lays. And so issue 4 becomes this, like, they're trying to find something new. You know what? Okay, I have an answer. My influence for dialogue, my influence for character, especially in this story, is Halt and Catch Fire. The relationship between.
Okay, I see it.
I've never seen it. I've never seen it. Unfortunately,
I see it. I see that now that you mention that. Absolutely,
it's Donna and Cameron, especially in season 4.
It's so their relationship is evident in the interplay in their language. It's like they're stuck in this sort of quasi-antagonistic relationship, but they clearly are on similar parallel. It's kind of magical. So yeah, I see that. I see that for sure.
It is. I just got chills. It's a perfect show, and I need to rewatch it. By the way, I just got announced as doing a piece for an anthology, where Chris Cantwell, who created and wrote a lot of Halt and Catch Fire, is one of the other names of the anthology. I'm like, this might be the best list of names to be on. Like, he's also one of the best comic writers working today. Like, if you haven't read everything, read everything. His book that is titled Everything about it's an atmospheric horror about a mall. Fucking great. Like
really?
Okay.
Everything, did you say?
Yeah.
Everything.
Chris Cantwell.
And his run on Doctor Doom made me care about Doctor Doom.
Oh, okay. Didn't know he had a Doctor Doom run. Then I don't.
Phenomenal.
Didn't read a lot of Marvel DC anymore.
Neither do I. And then I was like, I don't really like Chris
Cantwell. But for him.
Yeah, we ended up we were signing next to each other at a thing once, and I was like, I've never been nervous around another writer. I'm just going to sit here silently.
Yeah, I understand that.
All right, you look at the rest of these pages because there's some boobs here. I'm going to pee. I should have printed the Kickstarter. I'll be right back.
Yeah. Go. We'll keep everyone looking at the pages. Yes. Here is a very vamp.
Vamp.
Yes. Yeah.
You know that, Mr. Theater.
Yes. This is a different shower scene, not the 8 pages that Richard was going to do originally, but and I guess it's not a shower scene; it's just a bathroom scene. So that was his compromise. He just did a little bit of something else. But this is where you notice from the alternate cover that was going to be a magnet set, but did not turn out to be a magnet set, the lipstick. And she has this thing where she would paint all her scars, trace them with lipstick, and then scrub them off. But this is from the first issue, the quote-unquote antagonistic issue, where they're kind of neither of them wants to deal with each other, but because of what's happening. And what is happening is their ex-husbands, the Dr. Frankenstein and the Frankenstein monster, have come out publicly as a gay couple and are getting lots of plaudits for that. And they're both kind of dealing with how they each feel.
They're over it
about
in their own ways.
In their own way. They're over it, but they're also affected by it. Like, there's no question. Yeah.
I would like to also say it is a shower scene because she puts all the lipstick on all the scars and washes it away.
She does wash it. Okay, I couldn't tell if it was just, she was literally like just in the sink kind of a thing.
No.
There it is. There's the shower. Okay, I see. Yeah.
And so this is this story. That part of the story is based on a real thing that my mother read in a self-help book after her divorce. My mother has sort of these strange like birthmarks on her legs.
Okay.
Essentially they look like they're made of cement.
Okay. Yeah.
And she would outline them in lipstick to highlight them, and then write "I am beautiful" on the mirror. The told her to, and it is a haunting fucking image from my childhood.
Yeah, it sounds like
and so I thought, like, I'm gonna have her do this on all of the stitching, because like I can't make up what self-help books will tell you to do.
That's very true. That's my favorite thing is going to the self-help aisle at any used bookstore, and you can find those self-help books that go back 40 years, 50 years, and it's just like, wow, okay, that's definitely outdated. Yeah.
Do they ever have like notes in the margins from people?
Right.
That's the dream, isn't it?
It is, right?
In terms of like the dialogue and pacing and things, though, like I remember when Brian Michael Bendis was first really coming to prominence, like, with his when he first signed with Marvel, and he would always cite David Mamet as his big influence. And like you can see that in his dialogue. It is fairly naturalistic, but you're right, it has the same sort of patter thing. But I like Mamet's dialogue. I like obviously Zosha Mamet is the breakout star of Madam Web, a character who literally never stands up. Just fascinating. Sorry, I've seen the film twice.
Wow. Just why?
Okay. So a thing happened to me last November. I went and saw The Boy and the Heron. And I have seen, in my entire life, I saw Spice World in cinemas 6 times because every time you saw it, you got a free poster, and I wanted to get all 5 posters plus the group shot.
Yes.
And because I was like a 12-year-old boy, all the posters came. That was the same time that Beavis and Butthead Do America had been released, and so on the back of each one was a poster for Beavis and Butthead Do America. So I could just have 6 Beavis and Butthead posters on my bedroom wall, and I would know that it was Spice Girls on the back. Anyway, I've never seen a film more than once in theaters since then, ever. I've gone to like rep screenings of like Lord of the Rings and
right.
Godfather and shit, but like never
not during their initial release. Yeah.
And then I saw The Boy and the Heron, and I'm not a Miyazaki fan. I don't like anime, and I just started weeping uncontrollably. And at the end of the film, my husband said, "What was that a film about?" And I looked at him without even thinking, and I said, "Oh, it's about how painful it is to create something beautiful in a cursed world."
Ooh.
And I've seen it 14 times now, and I just keep going to the theater to see other things, and then deciding I'm just going to go see Boy and the Heron again. Why the fuck not? Like, it just, I just need to have some feelings right now.
Okay, but twice you, instead of going to see Boy and the Heron, you did go to see Madam Web.
Well, I wanted to know if I had become the kind of person who could see a movie more than once. And the answer is no, I can't.
Same. Can't do it.
I walked out of Madam Web and snuck into a screening of Boy and the Heron. So really, I've only seen it 1.5 times. I don't think Adam Scott should be allowed to be in movies.
He's just never good when he's in a movie, kind of a thing.
He's never good when he's in anything.
You don't like him even in TV shows?
Agreed.
Well, look, he's the worst thing about Boy Meets World, and that show had some fucking low points. Parks and Rec is a bad show that had a really good first season.
Wait. Was he in Boy Meets World?
Yeah, when the fuck is it, Harley the bully, the big bully, leaves, he gets replaced by a little Weasley bully. That's Adam Scott.
Interesting. I've never seen Boy Meets World. I will say we're about to disagree on Parks and Rec. I think the first season is the only one that isn't very good, and then I love everything post first season.
The first season feels like it's like how the first season of Friends, or the first half of the first season of Friends, feels like someone's trying to turn a Woody Allen movie into a TV series, and then it becomes really polished and gross. Parks and Rec, the first season is so interesting and so messy, and so like the characters are great and flawed, and whatever the fuck her name is,
they do smooth it out insanely so after that, but
she's bad at her job. Leslie is bad at her job in the first season, and it's so interesting.
So much more interesting than what she kind of becomes.
And like
the rest of the world becomes very interesting around her, but she becomes less so. Yeah.
And I like seeing Chris Pratt as a villain because he sucks as a person. And Adam Scott is there with his stupid, like, I don't know, weird small forehead and bad hair. And I can, like, it's the Jason Bateman thing. I can accept it in TV, but I can't really tolerate it.
But I think he works well, though. To your point of when these characters are first introduced, though, when he's first introduced, he's the toady to Rob Lowe, who, when he's first introduced, is also kind of the bad guy and not as likable. Like, that's kind of Parks and Rec's thing, right? Is everyone, when they first introduce a character, is always many more shades of gray, and then they make you like they want you to like absolutely everybody and make them all super understandable, super likable deep down. And that was Adam Scott's arc, is that he was pure toady man who plainly didn't love being the toady but didn't know any other way to be, and then he just stops being a toady at some point and just like is completely the opposite. So
it's especially the point where I think you're right about that. I think that like April is only interesting when she's a teenager. Like she needs to grow out of that behavior, and so everything she does beyond season 2, it feels like she's trying to play a character. I think the show is like, once Ron becomes a sympathetic character and you give him like Lucy Lawless to play against, and I love New Zealand, but and then the whole like
Xena still holds up, by the way.
Does it?
Absolutely. The bar is pretty low. So
yeah, I believe that Xena is exactly as good as I remember it being.
Yes, precisely.
Yep. Although she does have one of my her appearance on Curb Your Enthusiasm is phenomenal.
Oh God, yeah.
The amount of times I have to like explain how the jokes she makes are very accurate to New Zealand when I'm here in the US. The Donna storyline where she's like, no, actually, I do want normal things that other people want. I just pretend I don't. It's like, that's weak as shit. Like, have some characters with some fucking interest. And I really hate that show on a lot of levels. I also think that you can draw a pretty direct line from Ron Swanson as hilarious joke character to people thinking Ron Swanson is cool to people thinking that things don't matter to people voting for Donald Trump. The combination of Ron Swanson and Eric Cartman, I think, is responsible for maybe 10% of Trump's votes.
Ooh.
Huh. I don't know if I'd go that far, just because don't know about Cartman, because Cartman is, to this day, not actually meant to be likable, and he's mostly not likable.
No,
you never root for him.
You're saying that as a cool grown-up person who isn't an idiot.
Yeah.
Think about
except the difference is Ron
with.
Swanson, they do make you like, when the further the show goes, you are rooting for Ron Swanson more often than you're not. In fact, a lot of people got upset when they made Leslie and Ron enemies again in the final season. Right? I don't know if you ever got that far.
Oh, I watched all of it. I will never know.
Okay, you watched all of it. When they did that jump to the future, and then there's this bad blood between them, and both of them are kind of being absolutely horrible people in their own respective ways for the majority of that season, is like, a lot of people were like, no, they're likable now. You can't do this. And a lot of people didn't like that they did that. But I think for the most part, outside of that, and then when the show ends, of course, everyone's like they mend that bridge. Everyone's likable again. Everyone stops their dumbass behavior. So that show was definitely geared towards that. But South Park, you laugh at the things Cartman does, but you never root for him. You're never like, oh yeah, I want to see him succeed in whatever, in this horrible thing he's trying to do.
When Cartman says horrifying shit, there's a number of people who have grown up with that who are like, yeah, I can say that kind of horrifying shit.
That I agree with.
The nothing matters attitude. Like, I was 12 when that show started, and the number of people I know who have grown up,
who are now adults, and that's become kind of a baseline for interacting in the world sometimes.
I don't know. I'm not going to give it to Cartman, because again, he's not a likable character. He's not supposed to be. South Park predates the Trump rise by
here's the thing though, Dave. He's not supposed to be a likable character, but he is a likable character. You always forgive Cartman because he's always one of the group.
No, he keeps going.
Always comes back to the fold. He's always one of the group. They always
never comes back to the fold. I mean,
they always make space for his stupidity and idiocy.
He's Larry David for kids. He's the person saying the thing that is 30% worse than what you would want to say, but you're excited that someone can say it. And the fact that everything Cartman says is a very funny version of the dumb shit that bad people think.
Yeah,
sure. But before Trump, who was the one who could get away with, like, he could say it, and not only did he have, it's probably a stretch to say he had no repercussions because he only won once, and we'll see what keeps happening. But he had shockingly few repercussions, at least up until the very, very present time, where now he's losing court cases. And then we'll see how well he does in his bid for yet another re-election. But he went so long that I feel like that opened the floodgates, because Trump was he was the one that, like, he could do anything, say anything, and nothing would stick. Nothing could actually turn his followers away from him. I'm not sure I'm going to give the media, because like Beavis and Butthead was blamed for the same thing back in the 90s and the early 00s, where it was like, this is why all kids are dumb and saying stupid, foul things. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm not going to put it all on Cartman,
but he definitely is a cog in that ridiculous machine for sure.
I would also say like Beavis and Butthead are different because they're saying dumb shit and they're saying vulgar shit. Cartman's saying hateful shit, and I think that got really normalized. And like I'm being hyperbolic when I say 10% of Trump's votes. Like I don't really think it's that, but I think the attitude of not caring, or the attitude of like, particularly like white straight men believing that they can do things without it affecting other, not having to think about how it affects people who aren't them. I think that attitude has been normalized by not just Cartman, but by like a lot of things in media.
100%. I mean, I do think it's been normalized. I'm just not sure the fictional, like the vulgar, crass, comedic entertainment has been an instrumental factor in that rise, because this all started before any of that started. This was like the, Newt Gingrich era of Republican Party in Congress, where it was all the how far can we go? What ridiculous over the top thing can we claim about our opponents and say? And even though it's blatantly untrue, what's the media going to do about it? And they kept testing those lines, testing those waters. And the problem was we kind of did nothing about it, and we wouldn't really push back. And it culminated in Trump. Trump was the first time when the media finally was like, oh shit, maybe we should reconsider how we cover these things, because it's getting beyond the pale. It sucked that was beyond the pale and none of the stuff leading up to it. But I feel like politically, this was a movement happening in the country from the moment Reagan era ended and Clinton was elected. And now all of a sudden there was a obvious slow shift. The pendulum was shifting back to the other side, where we're like, okay, war on drugs, Reaganism, trickle down economics, like all of these things are not working. We're rethinking these things. Republicans went into survival mode and started doing and that's where I feel like it all has stemmed from. I'm not sure I buy how much any of our entertainment really played a role.
Let me push this idea then. I think you're right. And again, I am being hyperbolic, but let me push this. Do Cartman and Ron Swanson, are they responsible for Bernie Sanders? Are they responsible for third-party votes where people with privilege and who aren't going to be affected by the big shit are able to say, I'm going to do it. Like I don't care what really matters. I'm making my stance for what I have not thought through.
No, that's been around for decades in America.
It's so much bigger now in culture.
Well, like Ross Perot was before all of that, and he was the one who did the most damage and got the most votes from anyone in history. We have this libertarian streak in this country that is frustrating as all fuck, because it's always about, I vote with my conscience, but that conscience ends at just like whatever name you want to write on this ballot kind of a thing. And not what are those actual repercussions? What does that vote effectively do? We've studied this. We know the answer, and we don't and I think this is not another thing about humanity in general, but also Americans very much in general, which is that we want simple answers. We want voting with my conscience just means I vote for who I want. That's it. I don't have to consider anything else. It's not more complicated than that. Anyone who says it's more complicated than that is selling an agenda. And we stick to our gun. I mean, I don't want to say stick to our guns, but pun intended. We stick to our guns on that type of thing, where it's like anything that tries to make this more complicated than something that is a straight fucking line. It's why we're also like, how do we lose weight? How do we look good? How do we sleep? How do we have a good job? How do we get paid more? Where do we go to? We go to TED Talk gurus who are going to give us the secret, the answer, the 7 simple steps that will just bam, 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 bam. You check those boxes, you succeed, and you get what you want. It's not that life is fucking messy, and it's so complex, and we've built up so many fucking structures in our culture that we have to navigate. Like what you're navigating, like your individual circumstances are going to be wildly different from another individual circumstance, that it's fucking complicated. There's no secret, there's no answers. There's good advice in general, but you need to figure out if it works for you in your particular situation. And Americans fucking hate that. I think humanity overall hates that. And we want it simple. And so I think it's a big part of why people love the Cartmans and the Trumps and the Ron Swansons, because they want it super simple too. They're like, it's just this. You just make them pay. You just make them do this. You just never give in. You just, and as though that's
white, you're looking for
exactly, that's going to move the needle. So
you're saying, you're actually saying that I'm doing the thing that you were talking about, where I'm looking for the simple reason by blaming the cartoon character. And yeah, you're right.
I think
you're right. like you're right. That's actually like I'm sitting here.
We can't blame Ron Swanson and Cartman, but they definitely are a piece of the puzzle. Now, the biggest piece of the puzzle, in my opinion,
of that thing,
the biggest piece of the puzzle, in my opinion, is the 24-hour news cycle. But we're not getting into that conversation.
I mean, it's that like Cartman and Ron Swanson are like results of the culture you're talking about going further back.
Yes.
They're extreme versions of it, and they're the simple version that people now of our generation have latched on.
Also in the digital age, right?
Yeah. I'm forgetting the name of the All in the Family guy, but the infamous racist on TV, Archie Bunker. Thank you.
That's why the show was so popular. Every generation has a version of that,
right? And the liberals love it because it's making fun of it, and the people who are like Archie Bunker like it because they're like, oh, there's someone saying what I want to say, and they can choose not to see it as just comedy. So I think the one thing I'll give you is like, the Cartman and the Ron Swansons, like, I'm sure there are people that are seeing what they want to see in what they're saying and who those characters are.
And I also think we can't forget the idea that those characters are placed in satirical worlds. They are the central sort of tentpoles of satirical worlds, rather than resting on the sort of rightness or validity of their perspectives. They are consistently and constantly in opposition to, contrary ideas. So it's they're definitely on the end of the puzzle, but they're the crux of the issue.
When you make those characters likable, like Parks and Rec did beyond season 1, it undermines that satire.
No, I get what you're saying.
I think like
a little
to wrap this all up, and then we can get back to comics. I'll quote the truest poet of our time, Adam Duritz, when he said, "When I look at the television, I want to see me staring right back at me."
Absolutely.
It's very true. It's very true. It's very true.
But I think that's the thing, though. Those people are already what they are. They're looking for that. And the only thing I'll say is on the subject of making these characters likable, which is a good point, and I don't have a great response to that, except the one thing to think about, the takeaway is that they made Ron Swanson likable also, though, by softening him a lot, like his rhetoric and where he was willing to bend, he was willing to give in to the other side, and Leslie was no longer his mortal enemy. I mean, she drove him nuts, but they became friends. They started to understand each other. So it was more, he became likable because they were showing a version of us as a country and a culture coming together without having to like change completely, without having to like become a different, like you can still have certain worldviews, but you're learning how to both have your polar opposite worldviews and find that common ground, find that way to work together and get shit done. And that was a hopeful message. People might not have read that into it, but I feel like that is what the show did with his character.
So as someone who likes the bad seasons, by which I mean 2 onwards, of that show, do you think that if that show had been a one and done season, you would look back at it now as like a fucking masterpiece that like it's sad that it got canceled?
I think I would have seen it because when I first saw Parks and Rec, and I knew nothing. I didn't even realize, I'd never seen The Office when I saw Parks and Rec the first time. So like, I didn't even know what this style of sitcom TV was. Like, I'd never seen anything quite like it. That probably helped a little bit because it was new to me. But I saw that first season as like, the potential was insane. Like, I loved what it was doing. The thing that was keeping me a little bit at arm's distance, and I agree with you with like how flawed all the characters were, and I liked that, but I felt like the humor hadn't quite found its voice yet. And and you could tell, like, even the characters and the actors weren't sure how to portray these characters fully. And by giving it those extra, I think by the actors finding a way to make themselves multidimensional, and then the writers probably making them more multidimensional too. Personally, I feel like that's a more hopeful, and it has a better impact on culture because, again, you're showing the layers of people, not just everyone is a one-note, one-dimensional thing. It's like, no, they still have those flaws, but they mean well, or most of the time mean well, even though they have their moments when they absolutely don't. I liked where I think the show really found its legs by somewhere in season 2. And then just, went mostly from strength to strength. It had its, a little bit. Sometimes when characters left and new characters came on, you could tell they were fishing all over again to like, what the fuck are we doing with these new characters? We're not 100% sure yet. But the first season of The Office, yes, if it was a one and done, I would have thought, oh, I wonder where they would have gone with that, because there was a lot there that they could have done. But I do think it needed to evolve in some way. I think what season 1 felt stiff and a little overly formal, and a little like they were doing it, but yeah, there was just not that. There was an energy missing from it. It felt a little clamped down.
Okay, I couldn't disagree with you more. I think that the characters become so much more one-dimensional as they sand down the edges of them. I think that the flawed characters who are still likable and do still mean well, even if they're wrong in their approaches, is like Leslie's battles with her mother in season 1 are so human and so even when she's wrong, I love her. And then once she becomes she becomes Tracy Flick all grown up from season 2 onwards, and I'm just completely uninterested in that.
Interesting. I mean, I do wish the mother, because after season 1, the mother became much more of a bit part that only showed up. Like, as the seasons kept going, the mother kept getting like pushed.
Yeah.
Only like a guest star 1 episode a season or something like that. So, but she was integral at first because they were really showing what Leslie was trying to live up to.
Yeah.
But she was so different from her mother that it's like, stop trying to be your mother. You're not that person.
Yeah.
And find your own self. But while we definitely disagree as to whether they achieved that going, I do think what the show was trying to do one way or the other was like, these are characters all trying to find themselves and with each other. And they did that. If you weren't entertained or thought it was cheap and kind of two-dimensional in how they wound up trying to achieve that, that is, not going to be everyone's cup of tea, but I loved it. I thought they achieved it for the most part. They did definitely keep it much lighter. Like, South Park goes so much further and tries to really dig into what it's making fun of so much more than Parks and Rec ever did. So I agree with you there. They could have gone darker, for lack of a better term. Darker is not quite the right word, but more edgy and more like, we're really giving these characters some like flaws, and we're going to explore what those flaws do and what the repercussions are. And they rarely really did that. They went much more lighthearted with it.
Now, are we going to fully pivot this into a Parks and Rec podcast moving forward?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Nope. Dallas is like, I can't believe we've been talking about this fucking show.
It's only been 2 hours of Parks and Rec. I will look. I'm gonna say let's end the Parks and Rec talk, but I have one minor Parks and Rec story which really brings it back to Richard's and his shitty behavior.
Beautiful. Okay.
So I'm very attracted to sadness. Like I see sad older men, and I want to give them a hug and make everything better with my cool dick.
Yeah.
And so I'm at this event, and I see this guy. I'm like, fuck, that guy is like the hottest man I've ever seen. But like, objectively, he doesn't really fit my type. He's a little young. He's just not my type. But I'm like, I can't stop flirting with him. I'm like, I'm really like, I'm like laying out the big guns, like I'm saying, I'm lonely and I feel bad about myself.
Have you ever been in a graphic novel?
Yeah, I mean, like I'm leaving my glasses behind at the bar that say on one arm, "I'd love to see you again," and my number on the other side. And afterwards, I was like, I said to my friend, I was like, why was I so into that guy tonight? Like, and he was like, yeah, you were all over him. Like, what was it like? Because he doesn't look like my type. And he was like, oh no, Richard, that's your sadness thing. That's Jerry from Parks and Rec.
So, Jerry!
I did spend an entire night trying to have sex with him, which didn't work out.
Very nice. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Not Parks and Rec, but one last Adam Scott question. Have you seen Severance yet?
No.
Okay. All right. I would recommend it. It's one of the only times I've ever seen him do a where he's a lead and it's a completely serious dramatic role. There's whatever humor is in that show is largely incidental. and like it's weird funny, but not funny. So I would recommend if you want a different side of Adam Scott. And if you watch like one episode and you're like, oh no, like don't watch anymore. It doesn't really change. It gets weirder and goes farther, but it definitely is what it is. But that might be your one way of Adam Scott that could not turn you off.
Okay, I'll give it a try. I everyone else seems to like him. But to me, he's like Jason Bateman. I shouldn't have to look at his face.
I get the same thing from him I get from BJ Novak, whose writing I love, but as an actor, it's just very okay.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. So to go back to you were asking about dialogue before. I was talking about David Mamet and like how Bendis was like so publicly influenced by Mamet. He said it all the time, and I liked Mamet. I still like Mamet, and then I was at a we got into this because of Zosha Mamet and the Madam Web thing. I'm so sorry, Madam Web. See it in theaters; it's great. I don't. And I was at a party with David about 3 years ago. For Jesus Christ, no, pre-COVID, 5 years ago. And there's this woman whose name I can't remember who does this like parody thing where she's an evangelical country singer. Kind of like if Dolly Parton went down a slide too fast with any TV evangelist.
Yeah.
And she's at the party and she decides to do like a whole performance goof thing. And she makes us all watch where she brings David Mamet up to the front and like converts him to Christianity and won't let him leave until he agrees to accept Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. And I mean, it was as uncomfortable as you can imagine it being, but also like knowing who David Mamet is and how he writes dialogue and what had like the natural patter of everything he does, seeing that actually, if you put David Mamet in an awkward situation, he has absolutely no fucking clue what to say and will absolutely just accept Jesus Christ as his Lord and Savior. Really cut through some of that magic for me.
Always does. Never meet the heroes.
But again, his daughter, fantastic. His college best friend, Jonathan Katz, fantastic. Him,
and of course his daughter might. We'll see where his daughter goes from here. But he's definitely the most successful of the bunch, which is always the way.
He's the premier Mamet.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I think there are examples of like. I love Nepo babies. I love them.
Oh yeah,
because
it's the entire industry.
Well, no, it's because like they've been raised to be good. Like they've been raised to know how shit works, so they're good at stuff when they arrive. There are plenty of children of celebrities who have failed after the first try. See, for example, Zelda Williams and her garbage first film, Lisa Frankenstein.
Yeah.
Maybe the most disappointing thing I've seen all year. I've seen 33 films this year.
The trailer looked decent.
The trailer looks actually.
The word of mouth
has the best bits.
It sucks. Okay. And like I'm so on board for anything Diablo Cody does because young adult really spoke to me. But it sucks. But you know, like Sofia Coppola is not a great writer and captures tone in a way that her father couldn't imagine doing in his wildest dreams.
Yeah.
Right.
And Zosha Mamet, I think, is one of the most interesting parts of Girls, which I think is a very good show, despite how problematic the people involved are. Did you also grow up with terrible people in your 20s?
Did we?
Yeah, like did you two have,
I mean, some, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Not as many. Yeah, I wasn't like surrounded by nothing but terrible. Like looking back, I'm like I can pick out the one or two people where I'm like, oh yeah. But generally speaking, I was not a social butterfly, so I was very selective with
I had a certain weird magnetism where people were just drawn to me, so I ended up looking around and I have all these friends, but I've never engaged them to be friends. And so, it was one of those things where you sort of take stock and you're like, oh, like, you're mostly just horrible people. Wow.
Yeah.
See, I never had the circle. I never had the big circle.
I definitely had a Marnie, and I definitely had Shoshana. And you know, I don't want to sound like an asshole here, but I'm definitely Jessa if she had Hannah's writing talent. All the good qualities of the interesting characters.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Cool. All right. So
let's talk about comics.
Let's
maybe first let's wrap up this page that we're on right here that we've been just sort of sitting on while we've talked about other things.
This is the first segment, right? Remember, hard out, 17 minutes. So important.
That's right. 17 more minutes, guys, then we're out. So we are this is Richard's back catalog. Everything's available.
My back catalog from the past week.
I know. I've got 4-color heroes. I've got Octopus. I got them all. I'm so happy. You know what? I might not have Too Hot for Octopus. I'm gonna have to check.
You should check. It's actually not available as an add-on, despite the fact that it's sitting there in the list. I realized I fucked that up. That's right.
Do you not want it to be available as an add-on?
There's only 4 left.
Okay.
And the annoying thing about Too Hot for Octopus is I have to I put the tape on every copy myself and I handwrite the title.
Right.
Because I want them to feel a little bit more like a real journal.
Right.
I should add that as an add-on. No, I can get more printed. It's fine.
And are all of these, because they're in the PDF bundle, are they all available PDF as add-ons?
The Too Hot for Octopus is not in the PDF bundle.
Oh, it's not.
So the PDF, the Richard Sucks PDF bundle is you can get a physical copy of it in the Richard Sucks bundle, which is the only way you can get it right now. The PDF bundle is not the same as the print comics.
Okay.
Gotcha.
You get issue 1 of the New Zealand run of Blastosaurus. You get issue 1 of the American run of Blastosaurus. You get horror shorts. You get B. Blastosaurus, the alternate universe version where he's a 30-year-old graphic designer working on cereal packaging, wishing he could create comic books. You get Blastosaurus Extremely Human, the comic strip about him being a really ordinary person. You do get the first issue of Shed, which I think is sort of redundant. And then you get this weird handful of single issue things I've done. Like you have to remember, I've made a lot of books.
Yes, I know.
The digital bundle is all shit that isn't in print right now, mostly.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
Maybe I should throw Too Hot for Octopus in there. I don't want to reprint it.
Yeah. So you can limit it. Just put it as an add-on and limit it to 4.
I'll limit it to 4 copies. No, because I need it for no one's bought the Richard Sucks bundle. It's fine. I can reprint it.
Well, limit the Richard Sucks bundle to 2. Limit the add-on to 2. Something like that, and see if anyone buy it.
I'll figure it out. Yeah. But you can get Ghost, and you can get Shed for the first time in North America, which is very exciting.
Yes.
That's one of my faves.
And I'm pretty sure I have Shed digitally, but not the physical.
Did you get the whole thing or just the first chapter?
That's actually something I should go look. I think I just checked my PDFs one time, and I was like, "Oh yeah, I got Shed, great." But it just says Shed, so I should probably open it up and see what's the full page count supposed to be on that.
Full page is whatever
120 something.
100, it's 120 with covers and special features.
Okay,
you probably have the 18-page first chapter.
Okay, I will double check that. But all right, there we go. And Richard Sucks collection is pretty much. Because the original page is already.
I've sold 3 of the originals. There's 2 pages.
There's 7 because I've already pledged. I was like, why is it blanked out? And I was like, because I've already gotten the digital, and so they're like, you can't do that unless you get physical. But yeah. And then original page 2.4 plus the comics. So all the different pages are all listed here. You get to pick which one. And then it's only the early birds that are gone. All right.
Well, no. 3 of the originals have gone.
Okay.
Oh, 3 of the originals have gone.
Yeah.
Okay, so I got to scroll all the way to the bottom, and they're there. Okay, so a couple of the originals have gone, and then the early bird issue is gone as well, of course. All right, guys. So that is Ex-Wives of Frankenstein #2 on Kickstarter. Once again, until as the little ticker on the bottom of the screen says, until March 19th. Dallas. Would you like to talk about the wine you decided to pair with Ex-Wives of Frankenstein #2?
I would. All right. So let's see here. Let's see where are we? There we are. All right. So one thing Richard, are you
I just kind of look. Okay, so I moved into my apartment at I started at 4 a.m. Saturday morning. My bed was arriving between 7 and 9. The mattress arrived at 1.
Oh no.
The bed frame arrived at 3, and I'm still waiting on the box spring. And so I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor for the first couple of nights. I built the bed frame, and now there's no room for the mattress on the floor because the bedroom is not enormous.
Right.
And I just got a notification that the box spring has arrived. Apparently it has to be built by me. I didn't even fucking know that was a thing that happened. And I'm like, I just had a bottle of wine. Can I build a box spring tonight, or am I sleeping on my couch?
Yeah, you can do it.
Yeah,
you can do it.
I believe in myself.
Yeah.
What's the worst that could happen? But my box spring has finally arrived almost a week after I moved into this place.
Wow.
So it's very,
Is it downstairs now, or?
No, look, I'm in the office.
Oh, that's right.
The apartment is a 3-minute walk away. I really feel like I may have docked myself because I've been very public about where my office is.
Yeah.
I actually, here's a weird brag. I actually ran into some people who were here photographing the fish in the fountain outside my office.
Yeah.
Because they'd heard about it from me.
Ooh.
They had heard about it on my web presence and wanted
to meet. That's too intimate. I'd have to move immediately.
And then, but here's the weird part. I was like, "Oh, that's amazing! I'm glad you like my books." They're like, "Oh, we love your books." And I was like, "I have a Kickstarter going right now," and they were like, "Oh no, we have enough." Like, you came to photograph busy fish lips, you were dedicated enough to me to do this weird thing. Buy my fucking books.
Yeah, and just say I swear, just say oh great, we'll check it out, and don't say oh we've got enough. Come on, who says that? Punks.
All right.
On that note, I do have the whole shed in PDF too. I can't remember how I got that, shed. But I do have the full one.
Cool,
great. I may have to steal that. So yeah, Ex-Wives of Frankenstein 1 and 2 by Mr. Richard Fairgray. All right, so as we discussed last time, we discussed this guy. I love the treatment of this story. I love the fact that you essentially erase the male sort of components, the male gaze. You make them these sort of shadow characters. And you bring this really terrestrial story between these two women to the forefront and work out the kinks of this really intimate sort of parallel relationship where they're dealing with these men from different different angles and POVs. Because of that, because it is a slight sort of deviation from the traditional specter of this story, I wanted a wine that was sort of adjacent to traditional reds. And so because of that, I went with a Portuguese red, not a Spanish, not an Italian. Generally, this class of red has a bit of a bite to it, but it is also really, really sort of dense. It does a great job of giving you this sort of ripe black berry, the currant, the sort of, there's some florals in there. You get really ripe fruits. You get these, again, the floral notes are pretty consistent. There's some black pepper. There's some cinnamon. I think in general, it's the kind of wine that is pretty complex and savory on the finish. Much like this piece, it is something that I do kind of savor. Often when I'm reading comics, I'm kind of a super reader, so I can flip very easily and take in the sort of snapshot and sort of ingest it and digest it pretty easily. And not that the world that you're weaving here is really sort of complex in an overarching way. But what really is complex is the interplay, the subtlety between these two characters. One of my favorite lines is, I think it's the end of the final scene of number 1, when she says, "Do you want to go grab a drink?" I forget what the other character says, "Sure, but you're paying." Mm-hmm. That's just sort of, I think that's the best thumbnail for the relationship between these two characters, because it's contentious, it's unresolved. We really don't know where it's going. You always get the sense that they are just a hair trigger away from a really big dust up and blow up. But also they have this weirdly sort of sisterly kind of thing where they are clearly conscious of one another's sort of limitations and situation, but there's also a cat fight at any point around the corner. That's what it feels like,
the tension's there, but they never
they
never seem to want to take it out on each other either.
Right.
Like there's
which is why it always seems like it's just brimming behind the facade, which is fantastic. And I think this wine does a great job of that, because with every subsequent glass, the profile, the pepper, particularly, just sort of develops. So I went with these Castelo de Suco Reserve. It is, like I said, a Portuguese wine. Lots of fantastic notes in it. The grape is actually, I forget what the grape is now that I say that. Yeah, I totally forget what the grape is. But it is fantastic.
Say the name again.
Castelo del Suco. And it is a wine of Lisboa, which is Lisbon, Portugal, 2021. On average, you can find a bottle for around $20, anywhere from 14 to 20, depending on import tax. Yeah, fantastic.
The grape is probably Castelo.
Oh yeah, it is a Castelo grape. You're right. Yeah,
I was going to say that's an actual variety, not one
right.
I was super familiar with, but it's a native Portuguese variety. Yeah. So there you go. It might be blended with a few others, but that's obviously the predominant. Yeah,
it is a lovely little vino tinto red wine, and
I will say my favorite Trader Joe's Portuguese red blend, the Tinta da Fonte Castelo, is one of 5 grapes in it. That's like my only experience with it, is that it's part of that blend.
A good blend. It blends well. It definitely blends well.
It blends well. $7.99 a bottle. It's like my go-to at Trader Joe's still. It's been my go-to for like a year and a half, but they still have it, so fuck it. It's still my go-to.
Please say that name one more time, because I need a good Trader Joe's wine right now.
Tinta.
I should have a bottle there.
Wait, hang on. Are we just learning that Dave was standing up this whole time?
Oh no, he's always standing.
I'm always standing.
Oh my god! I feel so guilty for our 4-hour stream last time.
I was standing the whole time. It was funny. The 4-hour stream, when like Blake came on and took over and everything, and I'm like doing like all these different, like one leg up, and then that, and I'm like, oh god, new positions. I'm dying.
Oh my god.
But yes, this is
I've seen this one.
Yes, Vinha da Fonte, $7.99 a bottle, sometimes $6.99. I feel like sometimes they. I'm not sure if it's gone up $1, but I swear it went up $1 and then went back down $1. Like they mispriced it one time. But this is and then it says Reserva. I think they're on the 2021. Now I've been holding on to this bottle for a while just to see what happens to it. That's why it's kind of on top of the bookcase. But yeah, it's 5 different grapes. It's Castelao, Cabernet Sauvignon, Syrah, Touriga Nacional, and Alicante Boucher, all together. And it's astounding. I highly recommend it.
It's a good blend for sure.
I feel so guilty.
And
I did it to my own. I mean, I can put the desk down and pull a chair up. It's something I can do. Yeah. I do.
Don't feel too bad.
Like I spent so much time shitting on like Men with Central Partings with the Adam Scott and Jason Bateman of it all, and I'm suddenly realizing you have the thing. You have the 90s Ed Furlong.
Oh yeah,
thing going for you. Should I?
Well,
could I pull off this look? Do you think?
And bangs, a little split bang there.
Yeah.
My hair is a little on the lengthy side right now, but haircut tomorrow. It is already scheduled, so I get to go back to shorter summary cut. But I've been sitting on this for like months, and it's finally gotten to the point where like the bed head is insane first thing in the morning, and then I never rests well and takes forever to dry if I wash it. So I'm like, I'm over this. I need to get it back down to short.
I'm not going to say where I get my hair cut because I don't want to be mobbed, but I'll just say I don't like walking very far. And I was in waiting to get my hair cut, and the guy before me was Sean Gunn of Gilmore Girls and Guardians of the Galaxy fame. And his haircut's very bad and boring.
Mr. Nepotism is a problem. Then he gets cast in what is one of the latest DC. Oh yeah, something in the new DCU.
He's Maxwell Lord in the new.
Yeah, Maxwell Lord, but it was right after he did a whole diatribe of like nepotism is a problem in Hollywood, and then his brother cast him. It was like good timing, guy. Good timing.
Anyway, so he was ahead of me, and he's getting his haircut, and then I sit down in the chair. He's left. And they're like, what do you want us to do? I was like, just do whatever you want. Don't give me a fucking boring haircut like that guy. Gosh. What I didn't realize is that he'd walked into the store further to pay and was walking right behind me as I said it. So now I can never be friends with Sean Gunn. But also, like, it's really nice to know that someone with who's a big movie star who gets to be in these films goes to the same place that I do, where you pay $20 in cash.
I feel like that's the joy of LA. Like, one, you don't know who knows how well off Sean Gunn is in the first place, and being an actor, it's probably feast or famine, like a lot of actors, where it's like you've got a cushy gig, but now that's over, and now you're waiting for your next thing, and you don't know how long that's going to be. And people are cheap, no matter how much money you have. People are like, I don't want to spend more than $20 on a hair. I ain't doing that.
It's that weird thing though, where like, so I was in Seattle for the first time in my entire life, and by the way, my tattoo of myself is the cover of Live Through This. Generally gets like people reacting like, you got a fucking tattoo of yourself, what's wrong with you? When you're in Seattle where everyone knows who Hole are, they're like, you got a tattoo of a Hole album cover, what the fuck is wrong with you? But I was like, it's not gonna be like Hollywood, it's not gonna be like all these like big old famos everywhere I go. I have one Grindr hookup on my first night there, and the guy like halfway through reveals that he's Toby Vale's uncle. I'm like, of course you are.
Oh gosh.
Fucking Seattle. Anyway, really good sex. Had a great time.
We expect nothing less, Richard.
But the reason I thought of that is he looks a lot like James Gunn.
Okay. Got it.
Okay. Got it. There you go.
Right.
All right.
What you got, Dave?
Yeah. So I've got yesterday. So the last time we read Ex-Wives of Frankenstein #1, I paired it with this Italian white called Erbaluce. Which was this crisp, clean. I described it as like drinking a melted iceberg. Like just there was something about the austerity of it that really worked with this comic for me. Where it was, this comic is, there's this. All right, I'm not going to go with the joke glacial pace, but there is this steady. The dialogue is natural, and yet like there is a flow to it. As I was talking earlier about, like, I don't know where in the issue I am. Like I'm just going from page to page. There is obviously some hefty emotions and some simmering emotions underneath everything, but it's also just people kind of working it out as people do. There was something that I just really worked for me to have this very austere and clean tasting wine, more than I'd ever tasted in a white before. Like nothing really tangy, nothing really bitter. It was just such easy drinking, low in alcohol content. So it was, because it was a cooler part of Italy that this grape grew. And at this time I was like, okay, what's a red version of that? Like, what can I find in the red wine zone that would kind of fit this profile and work really well with this comic? And I actually think the red wine I found works even better than the Erbaluce. Because there is a little bit more going on. There's a little bit more bite to it, but in this same kind of crisp, clean way. And so yesterday we had a show with Path of the Pale Rider, Lori Calcaterra. And I did a Pinot Noir and Cabernet Sauvignon blend. And the fun thing is that Pinot Noir is almost never blended with anything. You never see it in blends. It's a wine that does not work in blends. It only works on its own. So it's extremely rare. It's just like you, which is why he does not co-host with another person on this show. He only works alone. But the Pinot Noir is something that is rare to find in blends. But
What'd you say, Richard?
I said, like all good wines, it goes well with crackers.
Crackers. That's your new slogan, Dallas.
That's
your new
right.
slogan, at least when it comes to the show. So I only know of 2 blends that use Pinot Noir in it. One I used last night, and I'm going to use the other one tonight. And the one tonight, I chose an Austrian Zweigelt and Pinot Noir blend. So Zweigelt is an Austrian grape. It is actually the most planted red grape in Austria these days. This is something, by the way, Richard, I just found in this local wine shop called Robert Burns Wines on Robertson. So it's nearby if you ever want to try this out.
Is that the one you picked up last week?
When you came into town, yes. So you were there when I picked this up. Yeah. And it is a Robert Burns is right on Robertson. I think this was $14.99, so also not particularly expensive, like nice and affordable. And this is so Pinot Noir is already kind of a light colored, medium bodied wine. It's got nice acidity, good complexity to it. Wind grown in Austria, which is a pretty cold fucking climate. It's even more austere than it normally is. It's even lighter in body. The fruit flavors are way dialed down. You barely get any fruit. I had a pure Austrian Pinot Noir recently, and I was kind of shocked how it was all like earthy flavors and herbal flavors and some florals on the nose, but like just the slightest hint of this being fucking made out of fruit. I mean, there was nothing there. And this Pinot is similar to that than Zweigelt, which is a hybrid. And I'm going to see if I can remember what it's a hybrid of. It is a hybrid between Saint Laurent and Blaufränkisch, which are 2 also, you mostly only find those in Austria, though you can find them. Yeah, I can find Blaufränkisch also grows in like New York Finger Lakes, in Michigan, where it's really cold here in the States too. You can find Blaufränkisch and Saint Laurent. But Zweigelt, you really can't find Zweigelt. You need to get it imported. We don't grow it here. But it is it's very light in body, very light in color. And then it's got the fruit that it has is very tart and acidic. It's like tart red cherry and cranberry / raspberry. And then you get this like dark chocolate licorice back end to it. And this very silky kind of earthy flavors that go in. So again, all these like earthy and almost medicinal back end notes with these very tart red fruit flavors going with this Pinot that is adding a lot of the same. And this is even only 12% alcohol, which for a red wine in 2024 is like, that is low alcohol for a red wine. So this this was a cold climate where the sugar levels were not getting high in those grapes. It stayed what we sometimes would describe as like almost vegetal rather than sugary. And what this red is, you get that austerity and that tartness, though. It's got this tart bite to it, like eating tart fruit or like dried cherries, but not with a lot of no added sugar. It's just like take some dried red cherries and just eat them plain that way. And those same kind of tart flavors are all here in the glass. And this, I think, pairs even a little bit better because it's matching what those characters are and what they're dealing with. Like there is that, like, it's still austere and smooth. Like they are holding so much back compared to what they want to just shout out loud. Even though we just saw that one page of the one lady shouting out, you know, it's not homosexuality. And it was like, okay, she got her one release. But for the most part, this whole comic could just be them, you know, screaming at the wind, screaming at each other. And it's not. It's everything but that for the most part. And I feel like this is one of those wines where everything is seething under the surface. You really have to sip and savor to taste everything that's going on in that glass. And yet it's crisp, it's clean, There's not a lot of alcohol. The bite is all in the flavor profile, in the medicinal flavors, in that tart red fruit. And so I'm going to go with this Pinot Zweigelt blend.
Pinot.
It's doing it for me.
What's the green note? What's the vegetal dominant? What you got? Grass, asparagus. What's in there?
It's not bell pepper. It's nowhere near that astringent. It is something closer to.
It's not an herb, right?
I don't think so. Maybe bay leaf.
Okay.
But there's a again that almost tangy, like it's not something you actually want to like gnaw on for long, right? It's like whatever that vegetal element is, it's something like that or like kale or something.
Okay.
Where it's like it's got that bitterness in the part that it's green. It's not a heavy green note,
but it's
in it. It's very dialed back. Yeah, it's more that tart red fruit, all the medicinal herbs, and then that hint of something green like a bay leaf or like some kale, something you don't want to gnaw on raw very often, if at all. It's not actually that pleasant. But yeah, this is my baby.
Good. I dig it.
All right.
All right, Richard.
What are you drinking tonight?
What I was drinking tonight before I finished was Motif Cabernet Sauvignon, a Red Hills Lake County blend. I don't want to talk about that shit. I did research.
Okay.
I was thinking about what is the wine that would actually match with this that I've had in my life.
Okay.
And I can't find it in America, so I'm going to give some useless fucking information. Oyster Bay, one of my favorite New Zealand wine companies, did a wine back when I lived there. I don't know if they still do. That was a bubbly blend of Pinot Noir and Sauvignon Blanc.
Okay.
And it was a fucking wonderful wine. It was the most. I had not to bring this all back to my first marriage again, but my ex-wife didn't drink at all, and she hated the taste of any alcohol, and she loved this wine, because she said she couldn't taste that it was alcoholic even on any level. So it had this. It was almost like it was close to like a soda for grown-ups, but these two flavors like Pinot Noir and Cabernet Sauvignon are so. Sorry. God, Jesus, I'm saying the wrong thing.
Sauvignon Blanc.
Sauvignon Blanc. Are so diametrically opposed that it they were working in tandem but against each other, and the fizziness somehow made it work. And I felt that really kind of summed up who the characters in this book were.
Nice.
The wonderful thing about so New Zealand Pinot Noir is very different than anything you'll have here in America. It's similar to Italian. It's similar to Australian, but it's like I describe American, specifically Californian Pinot Noir as like, what if you drank carpet? Like there's a grit to it that I just fucking hate. And the grit isn't a real grit, it's just the taste. It tastes like licking a damp carpet, and I hate it. And
it's known for having cat pee smell as well. So that hence I feel like that's a part of the damp carpet thing too that we associate.
And New Zealand Pinot Noir is like so beautiful and perfect. If anyone watching or listening hasn't had a New Zealand Pinot Noir, an Australian Pinot Noir will be much cheaper and will give you a similar feeling, but New Zealand Pinot Noir will change your life. It is so good. And I truly miss it.
Oyster Bay, or those guys, they make some solid shit.
Yeah, they know what they're doing. And all screw top. You don't need a fucking corkscrew.
Right.
And I love that.
Right. Except for the bubbly, probably.
Yeah, no, that's right. And I have but here's the thing. I am so scared of any wine bottle that you have to pop out.
Okay.
I've never been in the room when a wine bottle has been opened in my life.
Interesting.
I will just because I'm like, you know, it's going to bounce somewhere and it's going to hit me like in the eye.
It doesn't have to bounce anywhere. You just hold your hand over it and it doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm going to trust the other person opening it. I'm going to do it wrong. I know I'm going to do it wrong.
That's why you open it, Richard.
No, I would never get it right. Like, have you seen I think it's just called Mickey and the Beanstalk. It's part of the Fun and Fancy Free double feature. When he like fires himself off that champagne bottle when he's being chased by the dragonflies at the end, like that is what I associate with any wine bottle popping off. It could go anywhere.
I see that. I can see that.
I mean, I don't love it when people do, like they always do it in movies, right? Where they have to pop it and it like goes flying and then the thing, overflows, and because it's cinematic, it's visual. So they always do that. But I'm like, no one in real life, especially people who actually want drink, are there like, no, we're here to like one, they don't want it fizzing out of the fucking bottle and pouring all over everything. That was probably expensive. Or if it's not expensive, then why are you celebrating with it? And so it's like no one does that in real life, but you always see it in movies. And you can uncork those things without that being an issue. It's not hard. It's not hard.
But I'm a coward.
Good choice.
And it wasn't
Cab Sauv Blanc.
No, it's Sauvignon Blanc blend.
Oh, Sauv Blanc.
Yeah. Not You're going back. Sauvignon. Nerd alert, but yes, Sauvignon Blanc is the parent grape of Cabernet Sauvignon, which is why it has the word Sauvignon in it. But so it's Cabernet Franc and Sauvignon Blanc. I think they bred in the wild and created Cabernet Sauvignon long ago, and they've done the genetic testing, and those are the parents of Cabernet Sauvignon.
Sparkling.
And there is a sparkling rosé that's made now, but it's Chardonnay and Pinot that they make the current sparkling, and then their current sparkling white is just pure Chardonnay. It looks like
no one wants Chardonnay. Chardonnay is bad wine for bad people.
Well, it can be good. It can be amazing. I've had amazing Chardonnays, but it can.
Amazing.
Now, here's the thing, though.
It's illegal to lie on podcasts.
You almost always have to like Chardonnay is one of those grapes because it's so popular. The good shit, like you get what you pay for with Chardonnay. It's a problem where it's like you are in the at least $35 to $45 range to get the good stuff, if not higher. And then you start getting the stuff where you're like, okay, I see why this became popular. But once you start dipping below the $35 range, you're really into that industrial bulk kind of shitty Chardonnay, and it's not great. Now that said, Chardonnay is one of the primary grapes in Champagne, which is why I'm sure Oyster Bay might have switched over for their bubbly. In that is most Champagne is made with Chardonnay and Pinot, so that's the blend that's in Chardonnay. Yeah, so that's too bad because it does not look like they make it currently.
That is a shame. I hate Chardonnay, but I also have never my ex-boyfriend, the one who was secretly married all along, he was a very wealthy man. And one of the reasons I never date rich people anymore, because he would take he would take me out to dinner and it would cost thousands of dollars. And I'd be like, I'll take you out for dinner. And he'd be like, why are we eating poor people food? I'm like, this is what I can afford.
It's like, because I just said I'm taking you out to dinner. Come on.
Like, we're going to my favorite burger place. But
which is in LA.
I don't really have a favorite here.
All right.
Like Astro Burger is fine.
I'm gonna say there are a few places I've been eyeballing that I haven't tried yet, but like I haven't found a great burger in LA either. Yeah, I'm with
one of the best burgers I've ever had in LA was at Norm's. Actually, I have to say,
at Norm's. I need to try that still. I keep driving by it, but
my big issue is I can't find good fries. I want perfect fries, and nowhere consistently does them.
You know, I fries generally. I'm not a potato person, but I love a wedge with the skin on. That's
okay. Well, that's the worst thing I've ever heard a person say out loud. So that's fine. But anyway, I was no, I've lost my entire train of thought because of that terrible thing that just happened.
Well, what are you? So you were going to say that would go the best with Ex-Wives of Frankenstein. But was there anything else where you're like, okay, but that's not available?
No,
so
I like when I realized that I couldn't get an equivalent to that, I drank the bottle of wine that was in my office.
There you go.
Okay, gotcha.
Called Motif. It was.
I'm gonna see if I can find. It won't be Oyster Bay because they're not making it. I'm gonna see if I can find a bubbly, the Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot, and see if that exists.
Actually, I'm thinking the same thing. I kind of want to.
Yeah, and also, Richard, when and if we do finally, let's just say when we finally hang out in person here in LA, I'm gonna bring you a Chardonnay that I'm going to swear by that like it's gonna be different than the Chardonnays you've had. But
that's what I was gonna say. So when I was dating this very wealthy, he invested in Apple right before they launched the iPod, so he got real rich.
Right.
He took me out for dinner and he was like, "Oh, here, try this wine." And he was like, "What kind of wine do you like?" I was like, "I like Merlot." I was 22. I was like, "I like Merlot," and he buys a $1,200 bottle of Merlot. And I was very used to $11 bottles of Merlot.
Right.
And there's a difference.
Yeah.
And I've never enjoyed Merlot since then.
Well, okay. I promise you, it's the bottle of Chardonnay I give you will not even be triple digits.
Yeah.
It's going to be like I'm not that I did not invest in Apple early on.
Why not?
It's going to be probably at most. I'm going to see if I can find something that's decent that is still going to blow your mind, but it's going to be somewhere between like the $20 to $35 range. I'm going to try and keep it right in there in that sweet spot. And then if it has to be 35 to maybe 40 most, but I'm going to cap out at like 40. And I'm going to see if I can get you one in that. So it's like, look, you're spending money. It's not budget, but it's not bank breaking. You know,
but you're starting from a point where I hate Chardonnay. So
I'm not going to ruin it. Yeah.
Now I have to ask. So you did your live event.
Yes.
Right. And that obviously went well.
Yes. Are we doing another?
Yeah.
Yes. Next one will be in April. We are deciding on the date, and then I'm going to start reaching out to people.
Well, here's my thought. Why didn't you do one live from WonderCon?
Mostly because I wasn't going to be at WonderCon.
What's amazing? What's amazing is, Richard, this is sort of our stage 2 is considering all of this, sort of pooling into the different events and figuring out this sort of interplay of that world and this wine and comic stuff. So yeah, we've got some. It's coming.
Okay,
it's coming. We have lots of ideas, but yeah, starting local and seeing how this works. And right now there's one winery we're working with because I'm very close to them. And so it's like a safe space to really trial and error this. And then even more wineries throughout LA and then beyond LA. So it's like, we're going to roll out.
Right.
Okay.
It's coming.
I guess what I'm saying is I just found out I'm going to be tabling at WonderCon. So
cool.
Gotcha.
Very nice.
Yeah. Well, and you are on a short list for people. You weren't in LA when we did it the first time, so I couldn't reach out to you to ask.
Look, when I'm not around, you get Christy Shin. I get it. We're basically the same person.
Sometimes, in certain ways.
She is actually the most similar to me of people in comics. I think that's what I've learned over the years.
Yeah. I mean, you each have your own style, but yes, in broad stroke, like you're different versions of a very similar thing.
She's one of those people. I was planning a live art event for a couple of months in the future, and she's one of those people. I'm like, okay, yeah, this person and I are pretty similar. Okay, yeah.
The most I've ever felt like connected to a person when Christy was putting together the Demon Bitch collection. She reached out to me. She was like, "Do you want to do a pinup for it?" I was like, "Absolutely." And I drew this thing and I photographed the picture. And so I wanted everything fucking messy. I was like, I'm gonna make Demon Bitch look horny as fuck. Like I got like band-aids over the tits. I got her in a sexy pose. Like it's a horny fucking picture. And I drew it. And I scribbled the fuck out of it. I did the inks. I photographed it. I sent it through to Christy. And she comes back to me and she was like, "Hey, I know you don't have access to a scanner or whatever right now." I'm like, "What?" She's like, "I've cleaned it up for you. I've made it look nice. I know." I'm like, "Christy, I sent you what I wanted it to look like." And she was like, "Oh, shit. Okay, cool. Okay, no, way better. Cool. Okay, good. And she like worked so hard to try and like make my picture normal. I was like, no, Chrissy, I fucking love you. I want a dirtbag picture that'll fit with your aesthetic. Please let me do that.
Right.
That's awesome.
That is really awesome. Oh,
Cool.
by the way, John, he joined us about 5 minutes ago. I missed the comment, but yes, John, rock on and welcome. We also, I am wondering, Twitter has been exploding for us in terms of live viewers lately. I'm like, are these bots? How do we have this many viewers on Twitter? It's interesting. But yeah, last night and tonight, it's been like, now we have like twice as many as we had last night, and I'm like, who is watching on Twitter? What the fuck? This is interesting.
It's Elon. It's just Elon.
I know it's Elon. Elon's like, oh, I heard you like people who say whatever they want, and this whole trend. Oh my goodness!
Like, do you think he knows that in my mind, Victor and the monster are Elon Musk and Ghislaine Maxwell?
Oh wow!
Maybe.
Well, he will now.
That's interesting. He will now. This recording will live on Twitter on that little post. We'll see if he bothers to watch it.
That's right.
But I know it's one thing I do enjoy the not hugeness of the show sometimes, because you just don't have to worry about shit like that. You're like, no one's paying attention to us. It's all good. Whatever we want to say. All right, guys. Well, we are at almost 2.5 hours. So this is where, as we promised, 17 minutes in and out. We are out. Once again, Ex-Wives of Frankenstein on Kickstarter. Issues 1 and 2. And all of Richard Sucks. At least 4 more copies of Too Hot for Octopus that you can still get. So go there. Check it out. And you have until March 19th.
Kickrichard.com.
Kickrichard.com. There you are, folks. Ciao for now. Right. Good night. We will see you next week on the next One in Comics Pairing Show. Signing off.